partija mi sudi. Neka sudi, pjevat ćemo ljudi. Ne boj se rogova ni lažnih bogova, šta nam mogu lanjski snjegovi. Ne boj se tragova ričućih hlabova, šta će crni oblak planini.
Audio is working. It just was on mute. Welcome to what we believe may be episode 12 of PodroomTV. Here, it's coming towards the end of September, a massive week behind us and another massive weekend coming up ahead of us. With me tonight, as always, Robert Spolger. Spolge, how's your week been, mate?
Mate, it's been amazing, busy weekend. Probably I was happy that we had last night off because I was so bloody buggered, but now I'm even more tired tonight because I barely slept last night. But huge weekend as well with Dinamo, celebrating their 50th anniversary of their presentation night. I think it was like 1,000 people in attendance over there. Great to be there. People from all walks of life.
That's right.
Enjoying Croatian hospitality and a bit of music and a bit of drink. But it was always the usual suspects that were there at 1 o'clock in the morning, enjoying the dulcet tones of Major Minor. But, yeah, big weekend. But one thing I have to do, we have to sort of clear before we move on anywhere. Getting so many phone calls, people concerned about your welfare, saying, you were attacked, you were accosted. People want to know, well, what happened? What happened? Like, what happened? And I have to, tell them about the brutality of some of our Bulgarian friends that were in attendance there.
It was quite confronting. It was horrible for those at home who were watching.
It was.
And feared for our safety.
Yeah.
And we feared for our lives, a matter of fact. And yes, we were attacked in what would basically only be called domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
I have spoken to the Australian Federal Police and ASIO this week and have given them some names, and we've got some footage, and hopefully this man can be tracked down.
Oh, perfect.
And be put on some kind of a watch list, because we can't have these sorts of things. And we see what's happening in the world these days, people with an opinion being even worse than assaulted like we were. But we got through that.
Did get through it.
But what an event it was.
It was huge. Well, Michael actually, he cut it out and he put it on loop. And all I heard was over and over again, "You're right, dickhead. You don't need to go anywhere." And over and over again while he was sitting there pissing himself. So,
it was tough going, but we got through.
It was an iconic moment, though.
It was. But prior, it was iconic.
It was like when Trump got shot in the ear.
Exactly right. We got through it. We're two tough characters.
Yeah.
We're not that easily.
Yeah. That's what we just pointed at the Danny Sports Croatia and said, "Fight."
That's right.
Fight.
That's right. And Danny scored shortly afterwards, I believe so.
Yeah.
But prior to that, we were also at Melbourne Knights. We were upstairs in the Viduka Lounge where we drew out some 1,000 tickets. That was exhausting in itself. I think by the time we got to Dandy, it was pretty late, and we were absolutely cooked by then.
We were.
The Palinkovats in a Coke bottle didn't help.
No, at all. Just got to say that,
which I've still got upstairs. Hopefully the kids don't take a sip.
Yeah.
But that was a massive, again, not only was it the last man standing, but prior to that, all day was the Junior Crow Cup, which had
thousands.
Literally thousands of people came through the doors.
Yeah.
There was yarns of going. It was absolutely amazing. The car park, I've not seen that full in many, many, many years. There were people walking from Berkshire Road, McIntyre Road, were parking their cars, the kids with their backpacks. They couldn't get in. And weather held up perfectly for them as well.
The weather was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, but 1,000 tickets, absolutely massive to chip away at some of the debt that the Knights currently do have. So hopefully that puts them in a better position for next year to try and look at getting promoted again. But we will be speaking later with Michael Calandrella, the new head coach of Melbourne Knights, and we'll get his thoughts on what he sees happening at the club next season.
Kudos also go out to the new juniors committee who was there organising that whole thing in the morning. People that did attend it, I didn't attend in the morning, but I spoke to a lot of people that did, and they said it was the best organised gala in years, and absolutely loved it. Like the weather, like you mentioned, helped. Even some of the visitors from Sydney, they can vouch for the weather in Melbourne.
Exactly
So it
right.
was actually-
Peter Finca, who provided Spelge and I with these 2 beautiful beer mugs, sons of Salik, and Nick Raljevic, obviously, who's his Melbourne chapter representative.
Yep.
But before we go any further with some of the more community announcements, we're going to introduce our first guest for the evening. Like we said in the reel, we've got 2 guests in the studio. So sometimes we have none. Sometimes we get Tommy Gavran. So that's like either having none or having 5. And then sometimes you have 2. And tonight in studio, we've got David Deak, or Deeksy as he is known, from Forever Croatia. So many of you may have seen their social media presence where they upload tons and tons of material from bygone eras, from Croatian soccer clubs all over the world. So one came up, I think it was only the last couple of days, Bligenheim or Schleim or something.
Yeah. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't
Oh,
it?
it does. And then obviously all the Australian Croatian teams, and North American, even South American I've seen on there as well. But it's absolutely fantastic what Deeksy and Yorzo, who may well be joining us online if he gets a lunch break or time on his lunch break. He's currently in Croatia living there. So
Well, he lives in Croatia, doesn't his lunch break start at 10 in the morning and go till about 2 in the afternoon?
Viđamo se sa strankama od 10 do 10:30, and then we reopen at 5, which usually happens at the post office. We'll be chatting to Deeksy very, very soon, but we'll just go through a few things that we've got. So from the weekend, you would have seen some of the images from the last man standing, and there's Spolge in his, you can sort of see it, his Forever Croatia T-shirt, which is absolutely fantastic bit of merchandise and has now become pretty iconic around football grounds here and overseas. We had a great time. The crowd up there was electric.
It was.
There was a group of youngies that came up there after having a few frothies and really got involved. Every time we read out a name, which was either Mario, Marian, Marco, Mate, the Marianne started, and pretty much every second ticket.
Yeah, it was.
But it was a fantastic day there. Got us some photos there. You can see the weather.
The clinics people got a big mention as well. They enjoy the clinics people.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And you can see there some kids from Dinamo, kids from Dandy, enjoying their day. If you've got Junior Smolik there in his Hajduk top, I think it's Levaya. But also, if you watched last week's episode, Tommy Gavran did mention Joe Šimunic's dad was the first bloke from his cellar that owned a Porsche. And there's the photo. There is the evidence. We have got a bloke topless. He hasn't got the well-manicured chest as they do these days. He's more of a Dennis Lilly type. But that's him in his red
It's really manly. A real man.
Very man.
Real
Exactly
man.
right.
Yeah.
But that is the truth that Gavran did tell us.
Yep.
And then, like we said, the game at Lakeside there with Dandy City, absolutely fantastic.
Where'd that flag come from?
That flag was one of my creations from back in, I think it was 2018, but I remember seeing that at the 91 grand final, a flag of that sort of size. And
there was one like that, and it was just like a good flag.
the big checker flag. That's right.
Flags.
You can see the colour. You had Sydney people there. You had, like I said, those guys from Suited and Booted, which is a fairly popular podcast now. They were saying the crowd was electric, first and foremost. They go, yes. There were people there from St Albans and Knights and North Geelong and whatever else. He goes, but that just shows you the hopefully what we're seeing now is the strength in the community and people coming from all parts of Victoria to support a team. And like we saw with Sydney United when they played in the Australia Cup, people from all over Australia coming to watch United. But plenty of photos. Some of these boys in these photos were still at the club. I received an email, a text at 6:33 a.m. on Monday morning. Today. Monday morning saying, where are you? What are you doing? And they looked all pretty dusty already by that stage. Then you had some banners that were also made up by some people at the club there. I'm pretty sure Pero Grganovic made that one from DeLuna. If you need any sportswear, reach out to Pero.
That's pretty intricate.
And then the colour, you know what I mean? This is reminiscent. We're well and truly of the 80s and 90s. It was absolutely fantastic. Very, very well-behaved crowd, I must say.
Absolutely.
I reckon, considering the numbers, I think it was one of the biggest crowds that the NPL final has seen in a long, long time.
It was almost 9,000 people.
Exactly.
Amazing turnout.
At a neutral venue in the middle of nowhere, parking terrible. Yeah. Overall, they're selling pizzas and souvlaki's and whatever else it was, but
I didn't want to look.
Not our palate. And you can see there till the end, as Crows, we're always there till the end, and we celebrated. Look, it was a loss on the day, but it was a win for our community and for Dandy City. Absolutely fantastic. The last couple of years, what they've done in terms of ladder placement, finals, and now grand final. Hopefully next year they go the next step and win the whole damn thing.
It was a massive win. No one expected Danny to make it, or any Croatian team for that matter. When right to the end. They took it to Heidelberg right to the final minutes. We outnumbered the Heidelberg supporters. That we would have been minimum 3,000 to 4,000 Croats there supporting Dandy. The atmosphere, like you said, was electric, and it's just the first step. It's been a few years. We're sort of finding our way. We're finding our mojo, and we're getting back into it. Like I said, next year's a new year. You never know. Promotions,
That's right.
all sorts of things.
And we did also we know that the World Athletics Championships just took place. And there was a young man from Dandy City, well-known personality from Dandy City, who was trying to qualify last minute to try and make his way over to Tokyo. So we've got here young Ivica Bacic doing the 13-meter sprint with my media pass. Okay. I must add, but you'll see him here. He'll break into a sprint. No injuries.
Go.
Here we go. Look at him.
Yep.
Because he's got gout. That's
gout on both toes.
He's got gout in both toes, in both knees. There you go. He shows the media pass and tells the security exactly his thoughts. But I think he may have broken a personal best there.
Yeah. He was electric. Yeah,
he was.
It was the Flash.
Crowd were on their feet.
Flash Gordon.
It was a mix between Ben Johnson. The doping there would have been I don't know if it was Hahn Ice or what a Melbourne bitter would have been the doping if there was a dope test done afterwards, but or Scotch or some description. But great stuff there. But we also have a little clip from the Dinamo Zabava where the kids really got stuck in. And they are just the kids.
We are Dinamo.
If you can't hear us, we'll shout louder. We are Dinamo. Say no with Dinamo. If you can't hear us, we'll shout louder.
Well done.
There you go. The kids loved it. But we also got a very brief clip.
Before you skip over, that was preceded by a track, a new one that you actually wrote. I don't know if the punters are going to get to hear that one based on the very famous Geronimo.
And they're Crows. I think a couple of those members of that Shepherd, the band that sang Geronimo or whatever, Crows of some description.
I'm pretty sure they're from Mitkovic.
Yeah. I think one's a Dragovic, the other one's a Čelić, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
But we also received a very brief clip from our commissioner and deputy commissioner of the Cornhole Association in Sydney. It only goes for about 9 seconds, but they're enjoying themselves. They're in Greystanes, just practicing for next year's tournament.
Champions aren't made.
We grind.
Yes.
And in honour of the guys in Sydney, Australian Croatian club Braća Radić invites everybody to their Slavonska Večer on the 18th of October 2025. Doors open 6 p.m. Entry for adults and pensioners $20. Live music by Stona Sat down there at 79 South Street in Schofields. For table bookings, please contact Maria or Carlo 0409 678 781 and Carlo 0408 442 862. Okay, we'll get through all of this stuff.
Peter Finkel, like you mentioned, Sons of Sali, he mentioned coming down for that last man standing and the gala day at the Knights. Said, hi, boys. It was a pleasure to meet you both, legends. Great day at Melbourne Knights. Absolutely brilliant day. It was. It was a really good day.
Exactly right. And let me just have a look at STEM Summit.
Well, Tomislav's actually got a question for our guest. He says, is that the same David Diak from Geelong? Last time I saw him, he had hair. There you go. So it might have been a little while since you've seen him. But no, that's the very same.
The STEM Summit. Let me just check. I don't have the text that goes along with this, unfortunately, but the inaugural 2025 STEM Summit on 18 to 19 October at Ridges Hotel in Canberra, brought to you by the Victorian Croatian Chamber of Commerce with the support of the Republic of Croatia's State Office for Croats Abroad. So if you're into the sciences and mathematics and some of that sort of stuff, definitely jump on, have a look for VCCC, whether it's on LinkedIn or some of their socials, to get the full rundown of what it's all about. Apologies. I cannot find the text to save myself at the moment, but definitely something to look out for because the VCCC are doing some fantastic things in that space.
I think say most of our viewers, the only maths and science they're into is what what goes into the barrel when make raki or vino, like how much you put of this or that.
How much sugar
and
you
that's,
should put in.
and that's about the extent of
That's
the
exactly. But you can go to vcccprojects.com to get more information on that. It should be a massive one up there at the Ridges in Canberra. Now, also fairly late this afternoon, received again from King Tom, celebrating the 1100 years of the coronation of Kralj Tomislav. The Festa night will be taking place Friday, 3rd of October from 9 p.m. Ticket $25 via Tribe booking and $30 at the door. You got Prva Liga, you got Zarks, you got DJ KT. Should be massive. Then you've got Sunday. Oh, sorry, I think we'll go to Saturday first. Oh, where are we? Okay. The Gala night. Gala night, Storna Sart, Saturday, 4th of October, 7 p.m. start. Tickets $100 available at the venue, includes a 3-course meal. And then Sunday. So what a weekend it's going to be up there at King Tom. Sunday, 5 October, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Absolutely massive. So a festival taking place out there. And hopefully it's spring, so fingers crossed out there at Adenza Park. The drinks are flowing and everyone's having a good time. Another one, Australian Croatian Club over there at O'Connor. 1100-year anniversary of the coronation of Kralj Tomislav. Zabava as well, Saturday the 8th of November. Doors open at 6. Ekipa will be providing the music. Entry 25, buffet dinner 40. Bookings essential 0409 654 562. But for all of these, jump on their socials and you'll be able to see exactly what, when, how it'll all take place. Australian Croatian Social Club, Mornington Peninsula. I've also flicked through a flyer. Saturday, 22nd of November, starting at 6:30. They've got their Zabava at the Rosebud Italian Club at 8 Newington Avenue in Rosebud. Members and pensioners, $45. Non-members, $50. Kids under 12, $25. Includes a 3-course meal and live Croatian music. Please call Leo on 0491 442 297 or Nevin on 0481 364 044. And then what else do we have to sort of wrap this up? O'Connor. Now, I do have the text for this one, for the O'Connor Knights. They had...
Do you still have internet? Because I got none. So, but I'm with Optus, and Optus is going through...
yeah, it still seems to be
Heaven
going.
forbid I need to call an ambulance.
O'Connor Knights, the Mini Roos Cup 2025 matchday recap. So on Saturday, 13 September, history was made as the first ever Mini Roos Crow Cup kicked off, hosted by O'Connor Knights. From under 6 through to under 9s, day was packed with Derby Day battles between O'Connor Knights and Canberra, Croatia, showcasing future stars and non-stop action. So 6s and 7s, mixed bag in the group stages. Under 6 v under 7 Knights final. Knights under 7s came out on top. Canberra, Croatia, 3rd place. Under 8s, end-to-end football. David versus Goliath, 3-3 on penalties, decided with a clutch save and a cool finish from Leo Borg. Canberra, Croatia claimed the trophy. Under 9s, high-quality battles across the pitch, with O'Connor narrowly falling 2-1 to set up another Canberra, Croatia derby final. The Deakin Academy side lifted the cup after a thrilling 3-2 comeback win. Huge thank you to both clubs, all parents, supporters, players, sponsors and volunteers who made the day possible. What a way to kick off the first ever Mini Roos Crow Cup. So well done, O'Connor Knights and their sister club up there, Canberra, Croatia as well.
Fantastic stuff.
And just a quick on a couple of photos that we received also from people overseas that were there on holidays, and that most likely the Croatia Crna Gora qualifier. They got to meet their idols. So you got some kids here, pretty happy looking kids with Luka Modric, and another group of happy kids there, the Mioch kids there with Ivan Perisic, who is my all-time fave, to be honest. Now,
hard to argue that one too.
All done, I think, with the socials, but Forever Croatia, we've got Deeksy here, and everyone, I think, remembers from the Australia Cup final, that massive banner that stood out and made pretty much headlines all over the media here in Australia, both print media and digital media and everywhere. Absolutely stood out, and I think a lot of us started to take notice then. They go, oh, maybe is it just a banner? No, it's not just a banner. It is a, what could you call it? It's a movement. It is a symbol, and it is obviously the hard work that is now being put in to try and preserve the history of our clubs from all over the world, because we do a good job in keeping these things going, but sometimes we fall behind by trying to show what has actually come before us. And there in that photo, you can see Deeksy and Yorza. What was that at the World Cup, Euros?
Yeah, that was there. That was the World Cup 2018 against England. So
World Cup.
Probably the best iconic.
And we've also got them there. That's out the front of them. I'm thinking Maksimir. Is that the
that's
Bad Blue Boys monument to the Branitelji?
UEFA Nations League against Spain, 3-2 win. So that's
Wow.
exactly that.
And there you go. And you can see the Melbourne, Croatia and the North Geelong Croatia scarves and flag in full view there as well.
Represent.
All right, Deeksy.
Hello.
There you go, mate. Yes, he is the
Good.
famous Deeksy from Geelong. One of
I don't know
many.
about
There are
famous.
many of them
There are.
up there, so it's always hard to try and pick which one is it. Which one is it? Because you grow up with people and you don't know their first name.
Yeah, that's
Literally.
right.
Yeah, Sticks. He's like Deeksy.
We all look the same. We all got the same haircut. So, yeah. It's only my old man with the long hair rocking it. So he's trolling us
that's
all.
the one.
He is rock and roll.
He's rocking roll.
Absolute
Yeah,
gentleman,
we're
your
bald,
dad.
so-
Absolute gentleman.
But yourself and our good friend Jozo Kolokušić, who is currently in Croatia and is now to be joining us. Jozo, nas čuješ? Can you hear us, mate?
I think you can see us, but it doesn't look like
G'day,
you.
guys.
You can hear us?
G'day, Dave.
Hello,
See you in
Joe.
the studio.
Thanks, mate. Welcome. But Dixie,
I
tell
can
us a
hear you
little bit.
guys. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, buddy.
Yeah, loud and
Perfect.
clear. And you did preface this whole thing with that felt
I can
forever
hear you loud
Croatian
and clear.
banner. Sorry, you can. I don't know if you're just talking, but hopefully you can hear us.
Give us a thumbs up. If you can hear us. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, that's a thumb.
But Dixie-
that was like a Montenegrin thumbs up. Anyway, but you prefaced it with that Forever Croatia banner, and obviously you named this whole page and movement.
Yeah, can you hear me?
About after that Forever Croatia banner there. Were you actually at the game?
Yeah, definitely. I was behind the goals with the active support of the City United fans. Got a lot of friends there, really good people. So definitely was there. And yeah, that banner pretty much inspired it all with the name. So I don't know who from City United fans came up with that banner, but it's just perfect because he represents sort of our history, our present, and of course, forever. It's something that I'm going to hopefully talk about later on in this podcast is that understanding our history, we appreciate our present so much more. And then it leads into protecting our future. So that banner was everything, is the whole basis of sort of why we do what we do now. And then yeah, credit to the City United fans for picking that perfect banner. It's just I couldn't have picked anything better myself to have that, especially if the old school could have been in the middle. It was fitting. So suck him Charles for that.
It was an amazing day. I think there was like 16,000 people in attendance, of which there would have been 11, 12,000 Croats. Easy. Might have been a couple thousand neutrals, maybe 3,000 neutrals, and maybe 500 MacArthur supporters.
If that.
But probably the most incredible atmosphere I've ever experienced in this country at any soccer game.
Yeah.
You know, including A-Leagues where there was like 50,000 people and everything, which was great. I'm taking nothing away. There was some fantastic atmosphere. But that one was just something special where you couldn't even hear announcements
No, you couldn't.
that were going over the speakers with people just chanting over the top. Were you
100%.
at that game or
I was up at the tourney. No, we were at a cup with the Dynamo Juniors up at Gold Coast. So we watched it at Gold Coast Nights there in their big room. They put up a big screen for us and all the parents that were up there, so we didn't make it down. But my daughter did get there, my oldest, so she thinks it was the greatest thing she's ever been a part of in her life.
it was amazing?
So-
That's why I'm not surprised that was your inspiration to start everything, because if that didn't inspire, then nothing will as a football fan, and especially as a Croatian football fan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, yours will probably speak a little bit more about sort of the idea he came about to name that page and sort of all the content that went along with it. But yeah, the name was absolutely fitting and perfect. That's absolutely for sure. And then you saw it on the news, you saw it everywhere. Forever Croatia with the flares and just all the fans behind it. And I think for us as well, obviously Sydney Croatia and Melbourne Croatia are two big NSL clubs. And the demise of the NSL, then for a club like that to still exist, let alone make the national team, national cup final, that's extraordinary. Like I'd love to see right now if the top A-League clubs sort of got relegated or expelled or whatever, they won't exist for 20 months, let alone 20 years.
Yeah.
And then for a state league club like that to go through and knock off NSL A-League clubs as an old NSL club, carrying the Croatian name, red, white, and blue, and then for the boys to pick that banner, that was just the biggest honor and tribute you can ever sort of pick. So again, suck him Charles for that, because it wasn't just Sydney United; he was a representation of every single Croat abroad and obviously in Australia. So shame we didn't get the result in the end, but you know what? It's again, I'm a big believer in winning titles and success, but given the fact that was a state league club, you sort of didn't have to, because we won on that day. We showcased to exactly who we were. Like you said, probably had 15,000, probably more of us chanting in unison. Definitely the best game in Australia that I've been a part of, hands down. Hands down.
Absolutely.
And yours, where do we find you, mate? Are you in Zagreb at the moment?
It's like those old Eurovision things where there's like a.
We are waiting
17
the
seconds.
votes of the Swedish jury.
Can we please have your vote?
Forever Croatia, 2 points. Jel nas čuješ?
Stuck.
I don't know. Yours, or maybe you want to try and get out and dial back in. I'm not sure if you can hear us or not. Doesn't look like you can. I don't know whether we would just hang up on it.
We'll mute him off, and if you flick him a text or something.
Yeah.
But it's really taken off.
Yeah, it's taken off. For
Are
sure.
people now reaching out to you with photos, with
Yeah.
historical data and all of those things? Or did you start off you going out to certain clubs and trying to get stuff? Are now people coming to you and saying, here's some of our history, here's some of our old photos, here's some of our big names that might have passed through the club?
Yeah, spot on. Exactly how you said at the start. Sort of like you also had the idea. I'm shame you couldn't now. He's sort of obviously lost connection, but you know, he speaks about sort of like you got all these retro pages of say Glasgow Rangers, Celtic, Man United, Real Madrid, Dinamo Zagreb, all these old retro pages, and he's like, why don't we do one for ours? Like we're so proud of our achievements, not only in Australia but in Canada and around the world, and we were sort of everywhere. So he ran the idea past me, and I was naturally already sort of preserving like the history of North Geelong, my club, and then credit to my family as well. Like my brothers in particular, Ivy, he had a whole VHS collection, and wherever Croatia was mentioned, we just taped or whatever, whether it be basketball to soccer, NSL, Les Murray talking, you name it. And my mum had a lot of articles and photos and stuff, so I was naturally already preserving sort of my club's history. So when yours ran that idea past me, I'm like, we have to do this. We have to do this because that story just simply needs to be told. And then at the start, obviously, we had whatever we had in our disposal. Look, for me, it was already North Geelong and lesser extent Melbourne, Croatia, because they were the two clubs that I was obviously a part of growing up. So we found a lot of the content also through a book written by Marin Sopta in 2014. The book's titled Sveto ime Croatia. So, you know, in literal translation, holy name, but it's more sacred name Croatia.
Yeah.
And when we found that, we found a gold mine of our story, of our people, of where they went on every corner of the world. We were there, and they had soccer influence. So yeah, we got a lot of the early days. Some of our best stuff is actually from the early days. We didn't have quite the following. Yeah. But to answer your question, Smolik, it's people are now absolutely messaging the page, because now it's sort of kicked off. I think we have on Instagram 6,500 followers. I'm not sure about Facebook. Okay. I think maybe 1,500. It's a bit less on Facebook, but the Instagram's 6,500 followers. And a
lot of those 6.5. What's the breakup like of Aussies, Canadians, Americans? What are the percentages like?
I'm glad you asked that, because one of the gaps that yours was sort of identified by living in Croatia for 4 or 5 years now, maybe more. I'm not sure how long he's been there. Was sort of like the disconnect and the understanding of sort of what we've achieved in the diaspora as Croats in our clubs. A lot of people within Croatia don't really know that. They simply don't. And I found that like a little bit. Not shocking, but I was sort of like taken back by that. I'm thinking, I wonder why not, right? Then obviously, given the circumstance, political wise and all that stuff, it's not surprising that was the case. So a lot of our followers actually come from within Croatia, which is great, and that's why a lot of the posts are in Croatian first. So then, if we sort of already know the story here, we would rather they knew about it first, right? Yeah. So that's where I think that's key. But then obviously there's us here, Aussie Croats, which are a different breed, which is spoke about pre-podcast. We're a different breed in itself type thing, mentality and stuff. And of course, North America, which they were absolutely massive. So Croatia first it's actually we have the most followers coming from. So yeah, we're really wrapped with that.
People trying to learn about where we're coming from, or what, even trying to understand our perspective on things. But when you come in from, obviously you started from a very Aussie kind of perspective, because it would have been probably more Melbourne, Croatia than anything else, because that was probably
definitely the national team, correct?
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, that's even more so than Sydney, Croatia. Not taking anything away from Sydney, Croatia, but Melbourne, Croatia, we probably had big Victorians had more, saved memorabilia and stuff from those days. But that's just blossomed, and you're talking about all these other clubs, as Smolik mentioned, like Blumenheim, Croatia, and whatever. Sweden and Germany and Austria and Switzerland, and like you mentioned, North America, when North America really, they cemented their presence in North America, or Croats did before we did.
100%.
Yeah, like they were probably a generation or two before us.
Definitely.
And we talked about that with Joe Rodos from Canada the other week, and how big the Toronto Metro's Croatia Soccer Club was with the great Eusebio there playing against Pele and all of those kind of things. And I think we sort of aspired to that here in Australia.
Definitely.
Are you finding this sort of thread? You know, are you finding a story even that goes through the certain decades, like a certain theme in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know? There must be some kind of a thread or something that you see, so you know, like a
Well, there is. There's sort of like a pattern there emerging. Like
Yeah.
America, sort of definitely, as you said before, they set the tone for us. So even our Croatian tournament, right?
Yeah.
Which is a fun fact for people who don't know. It's we live in Australia, and obviously there's soccer's played here. Our Crow tournament is the longest still running national cup competition in this country. And I'm not talking ethnic. I'm talking just the national cup. So that there in itself is incredible. But we copied that from the North American Croatian tournament, right? Speaking of the Metros, Toronto, Croatia, like that story there, like is a big part of why I'm involved so much in this page, is because I want that story told. Like 15 years prior to democratic elections in Croatia, we had a red, white, blue Croatia named champions of the entire North American continent. Like I don't, like who does that? How can you do that? And then you hear the story of sort of how that happened, right? They obviously emigrated in large numbers. Toronto, Croatia was playing in the local sort of like semi-professional Ontario sort of league. And ahead of them, obviously, was the North American National Soccer League. I think it was actually called the NSL, much like ours. And then they had this, they had obviously the fans, they had the community support, but what they didn't have was the finances. So there's a team there at the time in 75 called Toronto Metros, and they had everything opposite what Toronto Croatia had. They had the finances, they could get the coaches on and stuff, but they didn't have the players and didn't have the community backing. So they approached Toronto Croatia and they said, well, let's do this. And Croats, being obviously very proud people, they'll be sus on sort of probably amalgamating or going down that path. And then it's an incredible story. Like they agreed that the chance to spread the Croatia name, which was the basis and the foundation while these clubs exist, like mine, like North Geelong, like Melbourne, Croatia, like all our clubs around the world, had the same sort of reason for foundation. So they took the chance, and then what's incredible, not only did they run with it, they ended up becoming champions a year later.
Wow.
A year later, and like you said, Eusebio, the bloke is compared to Pele. Pele played in that league at the time for New York Cosmos. So to win that title, red, white, blue Croatia, as they said, they didn't want to amalgamate, but the end goal of sort of spreading that Croatia name to hundreds of thousands of people that were watching, like 30,000 people in the stadium in that day, let alone everyone else. So that to me is just an amazing story. But then, I feel like we were always like a decade or two behind, whether it was from the copying them on the tournament, and then obviously the success of Melbourne and Sydney Croatia here, especially in the 90s. And you look at the 90s as well, like I grew up in a very Croatian bubble, as did you guys for sure. And everything back then was Croatian, and there's no doubt in my mind that our success as a collective with all our clubs from North Perth, Croatia to Canberra, were most successful in the 90s. If you look at the 10-year window of the NSL, I mean, 7 times a red, white, blue club with a Croatian name made a grand final.
Yeah.
You know, 6 times minor premiers, which some old school heads still say that's the real champion.
Yeah.
And then in that time frame, you know, North Perth, Croatia were champions, I think, in 98. Adelaide, Croatia champions 97. My club, North Geelong, in 92. Dinamo made the final in 98. Unfortunately, they didn't win it, but they were minor premiers. Yeah. Glenorchy, Croatia, 92 champions. I think late 90s as well. Canberra, Croatia, I think they've even lost count how many times they've won. Yeah. So in that 90s period, like we were just so it was so dominant. We were dominant without saying it any other way. We took the absolute piss. We did. So we were sort of a little bit behind them, but I think what differs us now to North America, especially, is we talk about how good Toronto, Croatia was, but they cease to exist now, which is a massive shame. Whereas I think we are the last bastion of sort of what's left of this forever Croatia story. Yeah.
Let's see if we can get Yorzo up. He's there now. We've got him. Yorzo, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Yorzo? We can see you, but you can't maybe hear us.
I don't know. Perhaps if you unplug those headphones, it just goes through the laptop. I'm not sure, but it's
anything.
It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. They're trying to stop the link between Croatia and the diaspora.
They've maybe seen some of the paraphernalia in the room, and it's been like in China where they've banned Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I know we've been looking for Savo Gubova, so I don't know where he is.
Can you hear me now?
This might be answering where. Oh, here we go.
Can you hear us?
Hey,
Oh,
can.
there we go. It was just
Can
a matter of
you hear
pressing the
me?
button. Yes, we
Yeah,
can,
I
man.
can,
We
but
can.
now your video is frozen.
But that's all right. You look wonderful.
How about now?
You're still frozen, but we can hear you, and that's the very main thing.
Yeah, but we're out
we can
now.
still see an image of your
Now
face.
you're moving. Now
Can you
you're
hear me
moving,
now?
and we can hear you. We can. All good.
So yours are welcome officially now to the program. Dave was just talking about even the start of the tournament. I don't know that
Australian
he brought the tournament over here back in the 70s. He went over there to North America, and that's where he saw the idea and brought it over here. But we want to talk about your start of Forever Croatia. What was your inspiration? What did you want to achieve, and how you going about doing that?
You got me. Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you, mate. Just talk. No worries.
It's all working now.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I can hear
Cool.
you live, but there's a delay
That's all right.
from what I
Did
can
you hear my question? Yep, there certainly is.
Maybe it was one of those long crow lunches down at Culture Channel.
Yeah,
And,
had a couple of those. Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
he went over to restaurant Burger, got himself some gra and massive
That's all.
flagon of gemisht. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure. So
That's all
unfortunately,
right,
they're trying to get into it. But yeah, that's right. We'll talk about that. Now, you've grown. How long's the actual page been up?
I reckon a couple of years now. It's actually, I think from probably 6 months or a year after the FFA Cup final, I reckon it was. So what are we now? I reckon 2 years, a good 2 years.
And when you actually put up, is there any sort of content that stands out more, gets a bigger reaction? Is it more Australian stuff, American stuff, Croatian stuff?
Well, it was the Toronto-Croatia one with Eusebio holding the Crow flag, I think before or just after at the airport where they when they won the championship. That really kicked off. But I don't know if it's the algorithm, but a lot of our let's just say enemies probably caught on because they saw the flag that they didn't like. So that gained a lot of traction. I think that got like almost like 50,000 or 100,000 views on our end. So that was pretty massive. But it all depends. It all depends on how cool the photo is. You know, a lot of the North Geelong things that I posted, like the one of all the when Croatia declared independence, and all the old school heads from North Geelong, Croatia had that big bull that they killed. Like, that's just an awesome photo. And that got hundreds of likes. So it all depends on the story of the photo. But videos get more than photos. So I encourage anyone to, if they're listening, please send in a lot of videos. That's what really gets.
Yeah, I know some of you people watching, please don't send the videos that you've got.
No.
Some of those VHSs some of you people have kept from the 80s, please keep them to yourselves.
Although they are very exciting.
They are very exciting, but you can download that shit for free. You don't need to send it through the DC. But if you've got old videos out, true story, I taped over my own charisma
Yeah.
with the Melbourne Croatia Press of Macedonia game from 1989 when Kelic scored the only goal of Summer Street. I think there was something like 11,000 people.
Just
Wow.
So you see my Una rolling sarma in my parents' kitchen,
Yeah.
and then it cuts across, I don't know, John Bell or Peter G or whoever the hell it was. And here we are today at Summer Street at Melbourne Croatia Sports. My mum's never spoken to me again.
You went from the luscious sarma to the luscious
Yeah,
calf
she
muscles
only
of
speaks to me
Ivo
when
Kilic.
I don't let Spolge talk, and then she yells at me. But there are people. I know Lazy Delmo. He brought out a lot of VHS stuff for the Melbourne Croatia. I don't know if it was the 60th, 50th, 60th. We put together that Hot Nights clip that's still on YouTube. That was pretty much all of just one bloke. Yeah, Lazy Tom Spalletta up there, who's now in Sydney.
Definitely know him well.
We spend many hours trying to edit, cut, basically write down minutes when we need to cut it, and then took it some professional and they chopped it and put it all into that 4-minute clip basically, but it took hours. So there are a lot of people with a lot of footage out there. If you do have it, you let us know before you go what's the best way of getting it to you, or do they convert it and then send it to you digital, even better?
No, I usually do that. I promise I'll give it back. Actually, speaking on that, Mickey Jovanovic, if you're watching, I swear I'll give you a DVD back. I've probably had it for about a year, but don't let that deter you from sending me content. I usually convert it. I paid for a converter, so I sort of enjoy doing it anyway. It's just something in my past. I just like pastime and delving into the history just to see where we were, where we went. Like talking before, like at one stage we had 130 Croatia names.
Wow.
So 130
Worldwide.
130 of our clubs either bore the nickname Croatia or as a name or as a nickname with the red, white, blue kit.
Yeah.
We went to Venezuela, Caracas, which I had no idea about up until only about a year ago. So Croatia Caracas existed. Then we had Croatia Johannesburg. Like, what are we even doing in South Africa? They're making a
Mining.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know, Bloemfontein, which is one of the South Africa's 3 capitals. We're all there also. So you hear that story. Like, I don't know who else. I don't know for sure. Like, I know the Juventus and the Azuris of the world sort of had a lot of the names shared at the same time. But for have 130 across the world, all for the same like sort of purpose of existing, that story just simply needs to be told. And while we've got this universal platform now, which reaches pretty much every corner of the globe, of the world, Croatian soccer has had an influence there. So we want to keep that all in one spot and just simply tell that story. And one of the gaps that I found, like what I spoke earlier, is a lot of people in Croatia sort of didn't know what was happening outside, and that's something we're obviously closing. But I got a lot of younger generation friends that I speak to across Melbourne and Geelong, obviously because I live here. And when I tell them these stories, not even they understand or have no idea that
and the kids coming through now.
The kids coming through. They don't know. But I think with that as well, like we grew up in such a Croatian bubble, as you guys would agree. You know, if Croatia and all things Croatian were say 100% of our lives back then, what is it now? You know, it's definitely not 100. That's dwindled. Our fight's over. We've won, and thank God for that. Wouldn't change it for the world. So, are we taking it for granted a little bit? Like, how do we then? Like, I guess the question is even now, like, how do we preserve that to make sure we don't just fizzle out and just dwindle? So, you know, speaking of the VHS story, I got a similar one. I used to watch Home Alone as a kid. It used to be my favorite movie. I used to watch it every second weekend. As a kid, you watch the movie 100,000 times. And then halfway through, it just goes, you know, that black and white, that fizz, and it's Li Lin Chin giving me updates about what our forces were doing against JNR in Eastern Slavonia. And then he just goes, yeah, back to the movie. I'm like, okay, no worries. But that was life back then. Everyone had that standby, really. Croatia mentioned, you know. Whereas I think now we take it for granted because, again, it's a good problem to have. We've got our own. We've got Croatia now. So for us, when the home phone used to ring and they used to say, hey, Goran Višnjić is about to pray Oče naš on ER, my whole family was glued to that. It's like Croatia mentioned, you know, Knights Army Forum. Are they going to use a Knights kit for a Milo commercial? We taped it. It's just one of those things. It was like an obsession.
Yeah.
So like I'm not like, you know, bagging our youth. It's just that they probably don't have a reason to appreciate it the way we do, because there was obviously a time where Croatia didn't exist and then it did exist. So seeing it then somewhere was like a big deal. Yeah. Now it's everywhere. You walk into Flight Centre, there's 1,000 brochures and all that stuff. Back in the day, that was a big deal for us. So I think I'm still stuck in that mentality where for me it's Croatia or nothing almost, you know. Like my old man always taught us, me and my brothers, that like Adelaide, Croatia, Canberra, Croatia, they're our club, even though we don't live there. They're our club. You support them like you do North Geelong. The only time you don't support them is when they play North Geelong. So I think I've always just continued on with that mentality. But for me, it's important, I guess, to let this younger generation know, if you really delve into your history, you'll be so proud of it. You'll see that they went through, like I said, the Federation trying to get rid of their names, change their colors. You can't have this Grb. You know, the Yugo propaganda machine was in full swing. The enemy from within, which was real. They overcome all these problems, expulsions, and then to have the on-field success, and then are we appreciating it enough today? Like, are we taking it for granted? So that's something that I just want the younger generation to know. It's what we spoke about earlier. That will preserve our future for sure.
Well, it's very difficult for the kids not to take it for granted because it's right there. It's at their fingertips. And Croatia,
that's right.
It's definitely the flavour of the month. It's the place to be.
But another Dixie saying that you should have Norahovac that'll help you cough.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Sorry, excuse me, everyone. I've just got a bit of I've got a bit of.
I've got the shakes.
Hay fever. Hay fever. But digressing.
If another day I've said it, I've got to get it.
But digressing from what we were talking about, taping on the VHS, these old, you know, stories, Lily Chitton about Eastern Slavonia. But I remember every night, like you know, you had to, and we still had that, you know, change with the tick, 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 even at that time, 1990, 91, they still didn't have a remote control. And I was a remote control, obviously, and you'd start off, you know, ABC was first, and then you'd go, oh, no, it wasn't about SBS was first, and you know, 7 and 9, back and forth, which one's going to have it? And then, you know, and then you put it up, and then, and then you'd put it up like, and the TV's never been that loud because anytime you turn it up more than a quarter, the parents would freak out. Yeah. But this time you put it up half, and then it was just silence. Shruti! And then you just watch it, and it was just quiet. And then at the end of it, you put it down and you go, Što su rekli? And then you've got to spend the next 5 minutes doing a translation of it because you're sort of half watching it, half not anyway, because it was like the 58th story about the war in Croatia at that time. But, you did touch on South America before and Venezuela. How was the presence with soccer clubs going in Venezuela at the moment? No, in Venezuela, in South America at the moment, is there a presence at all? I know there was a lot of people that migrated to Argentina, Chile, Punta Arenas being the most southern city in the world, being having a majority population of Croats.
Hey, caramba!
Exactly. But did they also bring that love of football with them as well, or is it just?
Well, that's a surprising one, given the fact that Chile and Argentina had so many Croats, even more than Australia. There's not many records of having a Croatian club there. If there was, it was sort of just on a social level. Even the presence of sort of the Caracas Venezuela club, that Martin Soptad writes in his book that they had a lot of foreign players. And for them, they didn't really care because it was a fact that they'll still had a Croatian gear, red, white, and blue, spreading the Croatian name. So even though they didn't have sort of like the Domaći players, there was enough that he wore the Croatian name. So there's not really a presence of that anymore. I think Argentina and Chile sort of did a little bit different to us. If your name was Ivan, they sort of like made you change it to Juan and stuff like that. They like we have anglicized names now. Here they went Spanish names. They allowed you to keep the surname, but you became very Argentinian or very, 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 very Chilean.
It was a bit
Have you seen that Bar Croata? I think they come out of Buenos Aires or Rosario. Javier Santic and Ante Grbac or whatever. Yeah. They've got a massive collection of jerseys. Yes. I've sent them bucketloads of stuff from here. Geelong Dom Polo, I think, was one of the things that I sent them. Gorskic Bears, I think the only thing I couldn't get to them was Canberra, Croatia, and I don't know what other club it was. Whyalla, maybe I didn't have a jersey, but whatever I had, I basically sent them. And they're massive on history of, on jerseys at least, but they've still got a show going. Well, it is in Spanish, but it's Bar Croata, and I sometimes tune in and try and understand.
You look like parents watching those news stories in the 90s. Caramba, riba. But we're doing the same thing here as well. I think our generation as well, we're trying to anglicize our names and do all those things. I know my mum wanted to name me Ante. And my dad goes, "Šta fali Jure?" Like, Jesus, Jure. And my brother goes, "Well, they're going to make fun of him. Fuck, either way, what are you talking about?" And then I became Robert. But so it was the same sort of a thing, But look, amazing things that you're doing. What are your hopes for the future? Obviously, you don't want to stop here. 6,500. What an amazing achievement so far, just on Instagram.
Yeah.
But what is it that you want to do? And I'm sure it's more than just about posting and educating.
Yeah, well, it's we actually, yours and I actually spoke about this before the podcast. Is sort of where do we want to go from here? We don't want it to stop. We don't want to become irrelevant, and that's just not. We
Yours is trying to get through.
Sorry about yours.
Desperate. What's
too late, Joey. Too late.
Can you hear us now, Yozo?
I can. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Is it delayed?
Yeah, man. I had to switch to mobile internet because it's a lot quicker. Anyway, good to see you all in the studio.
You got to buy those Bornovit. It doesn't work without the Bornovit there, mate. You got to go into the.
You know what? Techcom's too expensive. Time to switch. What's it back to your question half an hour ago. So motivation was a Sydney Croatia banner. Steven Puškarić from the Sydney United supporters, he thought of the banner together with his boys. The name that they got it from was a booklet from Croatian tournament back in 2011 or 12 when Croatian tournament was in Sydney, and there was all the Grbs of Sydney, Croatia back then, the 5-6 Grbs, and it said Forever Croatia, meaning the names changed throughout history. The Grbs changed, but it's always been Croatia. So that's what it means. And then, I saw that banner watching the game from Zagreb. David was at the game behind the goals. I was supposed to be there too, but COVID just finished. Flights are 4,000 euros, and people in Australia haven't got money like that, let alone people working for corners at the time. And I was like,
because the playgrounds were deadly. You could have died by going to a playground in Victoria.
Well, if you licked a giveaway sign at a roundabout, you would have.
Yeah, my brothers told me all about it, and a big hello to my brothers Eddie and Nevin and nephew Ante, which you guys see at the Melbourne Croatia Juniors all the time. Yeah, so basically I was watching with about 15, 20 Aussie Crows living here in Zagreb in front of a big TV. We had a big party, but I'm like, my place isn't here. I should be behind those goals. So I'm glad David was behind the goals representing, you know, me as his friend. And, you know, he was starting chants, you know, he started some chants that all 12,000 Croats, you know, got involved in, you know, and that's our 20 plus years of experience in the grandstands of Melbourne, Croatia, North Geelong, Croatia, etc. You know, it didn't come overnight. It took a lot of experience to get to that stage.
And now you're over there. Now we were talking about it a little bit earlier while you were offline. But do you feel now that people that are looking at that page and that you're engaging with yourself and talking to, you know, whether it's at work or in general life, people from there, not our expats, but the people that are living there, are they starting to understand a little bit more about how we tick as a narod here? Because we're very misunderstood. I think they look at us very, very differently than what we actually are, I think. And we look at them probably differently than what they are. But are you feeling this is now a bit of a bridge where people are now starting to think, geez, these people aren't as special or as bad as whatever we were told that they were?
Yeah, I think so, because there was an information gap. And especially, I think, since the 90s, since the 70-plus-year-olds stopped, you know, working for the newspapers and publishing materials and books, information gap. And I think that's where David and me have come in handy to bring it on to this new generation of kids. But not just kids, you know, people in Croatia. You know, I knew people who were big Hajduk Split supporters. They knew of Eusebio playing for Benfica, because Benfica have always traditionally been friends with Hajduk Split. Since '95, they lifted a banner, Freedom for Croatia. But they didn't know that he played for Toronto, Croatia. I'm like, kako možeš hvaliti ga u Portugal, a ne kod Hrvata? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah, it's becoming more and more talked about. You know, Dinamo Zagreb supporters are following it because of the materials they have. Toronto, Croatia, Dinamo Zagreb is 71, in Australia in 81, 88. Those are all photos and videos none of them have ever seen. And also with Mark Viduka, you know, for 30 years they've been talking, oh, Tudjman brought him over, all these sorts of garbage. But, you know, David Deek and his mate Tomislav Butkovic from Geelong, they found footage of Tudjman at Melbourne, Croatia, at Sydney, Croatia, Viduka getting a medal or award of excellence at Rod Laver Arena in front of 15,000 people, along with, you know, awards for, you know, academic successes, etc. First time most people have seen this footage. You guys remember it, I'm sure, Spoy.
Yeah, I watched it now. Actually, I remember that popping up a couple of months ago.
Lobel Crnogorac received the Academic Excellence Award, what I remember.
He did. He did, and exactly. And he's actually moved to Croatia recently, I'm told, by Petar Kožul. So, you know.
Behind every great academic mind is a lady from his okolice Zadra somewhere. So you've got to get that one in. Got to squeeze that one in. But she's
a bit like David Deek. I don't know if you've covered it due to the, you know, the delay, but, you know.
You lost him again. Yeah, I agree.
You've cut out yours again.
Just while yours was cut out as well. Obviously, I'm a little bit late to mention this. So I apologize, team. But it's not just myself and yours. I can't stress that enough. Obviously, I cover a lot of. Yours was a Melbourne boy. He lives now in Zagreb, and I'm obviously a Geelong boy. But we had to reach out more than that, because obviously we didn't know the ins and outs of Chicago and North America and stuff like that. So Stephen Puškarić, a really good friend of mine. Sorry, I don't know you created that banner, brother, but he's a Sydney United boy through and through. So he helps with the Sydney side of things. Pava Yusup as well has helped me a lot as well with the Melbourne content. Max Jurkovic from Adelaide, that's our oldest still running Australian club, so that's massive to have sort of his footages and stuff, and a lot of stuff he sent me over the years as well. I'm like, how do you have this? I don't get it. And then he told me as well, he goes, oh, my family, we had that VHS on standby. I'm like, oh, it sounds all familiar, doesn't it? So and then we've got a couple of boys as well from Canada, Ante Radoš, Joe Baričević, and we've got a bloke from Chicago called Ante Lonchard, and then Anthony Zoric as well from Los Angeles, who helps us out a lot with content. He also collects jerseys and stuff.
New York Croatia jersey. I had probably an 80s on it. Now he'll be able to verify it, whether it was late 70s or early 80s. Absolute belt over long sleeve jersey.
He will find you if you have something that he will find you. He's actually one of the cool stories. Last year he sent me to the southeast on some adventure because Mickey Peterson with the Socceroos in a '92 tour against Crows, swapped jerseys with one of the Crow players, and then he ended up buying that jersey from
Mickey Peterson.
No, Mickey Peterson gave it to a family friend, so I bought it off Mickey Peterson's family friend. It was a '92 Crow kit, which is rare.
Is he?
No, that's right.
Was that the pretty much all red one? We've had the sort of white
all
points
red one,
here
exactly. With
The pizza top.
correct.
The Croatia pizza top.
That's the one. That's that one.
Rare
So
as hen's teeth. But
rare
he's still
as.
looking for, and there are people that do have them. Not the match program. He's looking for a ticket stub.
Yeah, ticket
The
stub.
ticket stub from the Melbourne or Sydney games.
Mm.
So if anyone's got it and they're willing to sell, Anthony Zoric is willing to pay pretty significant amounts of money.
He'll find you.
So we, Borja Janko, well, Natalie Janko sent him a match program. So she had 2 of them. So he bought one of those and that New York Croatia jersey that I had. But he's still after a couple of other things. I just got to get into the boxes and see what I've got for him. But yeah, people like that who appreciate it, collect it, are collectors. They're not buying it off me and then selling it to somebody else.
Yeah,
like those boys in Argentina as well. So it's,
100%.
There's actually one thing now that yours have just brought up as well. And he said why he named that Forever Croatia thing. It was about the Forever Croatia name. Like we've become the Knights, or you've become United and Raiders and et cetera, et cetera. Now that they've had this whole NSD thing that's happened and now clubs are basically allowed to go back to it. What's your take on that? Now, I mean, how old are you? I'm not even sure.
37.
You're a little bit younger. Yeah, so
37.
You
A little
would have
bit
just
younger.
a little bit younger, but you would still remember the NSL times and
For
the
sure,
end of that.
for
But I'm
sure,
not sure if
absolutely.
you remember how much grief having to change the name brought back then. I think it was in 1993 when we went to
92,
CSC.
92, 93.
Yeah, so we went to CSC and then onto the Knights.
Mhm.
Now we've got that opportunity
Mhm.
to go back to the original name. I'm for one, I'm flabbergasted as to why we haven't gone back to it. Not that I'm against it, not like I love the Knights, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? But Croatia's Croatia. There's no more beautiful name in the world than that, as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah. Well, look, you look at Canberra Croatia's success. They jumped on it straight away. So did Adelaide. I think Adelaide incorporated both their names. I think I could be wrong. So Adelaide,
yeah, Croatia Raiders
together.
they do. Yeah.
Right. So I am one. I'm one for it. Like I don't know if it's because it's a legacy thing that titles are won under those certain names and stuff, or maybe it's sort of scared for the second division. But then again, Canberra Croatia's now in it. I know they weren't in it as a foundation member, but they obviously won their minor premiers. To be given the chance to represent that, but everyone knows it's a Croatian club already. So to answer your question, I'm all for that. I love that. Something as clean as, like, say, North Geelong, even CSC. So if you really want to go down that path, or you don't want to make it too obvious, North Geelong, CSC, I personally would love that. I don't. The nicknames were obviously forced upon us. It's what we spoke about earlier. You have to change your name, you have to change your logo. Yeah. I would personally, but you got to let the clubs decide for themselves, I guess. But to answer your question for sure,
but
I think it's
you
a
have to
no-brainer.
let the club. I think you have to let the members. You have to give them the opportunity to decide that. Not I think any of the members have had the opportunity to decide that.
I agree, but the thing is, for me as well, everyone knows it's a Croatian club anyway. So whether they say, it's going to deter people, but who doesn't know that these clubs are Croatian anyway? Yeah. They still chant Croatia at the games. I know we do in North Geelong. It's still red, white, and blue. The whole legacy and all this thing, the history we're talking about, and identity. Like I would go back to it for sure. But yeah, I'd love to see what the rest of the chat sort of thinks on that. But I would, to answer your question, absolutely in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And yours, or can you hear us now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, mate. You were on a podcast recently. What was the name of that podcast that you were on? It was probably about an hour or so it lasted, I reckon.
Yeah, it was on HRT, English-speaking program. And the 3 members were from Canada. They live in Zagreb. And the name of the podcast is the Home Team Podcast. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you ever watch HRT, really late program, HRT 3 or 4, if you can see the English-speaking news, one of them 3 will be reading the news for you, Croatian news in English. So, they had
we're watching different programming at late night on HRT.
I was usually watching SBS after midnight.
HRT 3 and 4.
I remember when you guys used to stand on the Quarry Hill, and there was that chant about more on SBS, more programs on SBS. And for your question about the podcast, it was really good. The boys had an idea to speak about Croatian sports in English, and they had 3 or 4 quite remarkable athletes before me, and they're like, "Oh, you should come on." And I was hesitant about it for a good year, but we ended up doing it, and the reception was way better than I would have expected. The average views of the videos were about 500-600 views. This was about 3,400 you
Wow.
know, and then you know, from that they announced Mark Viduka as the next guest, and you know, he's on about 12 or 14,000. So
Of course. Yeah.
their podcast has just taken off, you know, and yeah, it was good. I got to say a lot of my story. That's why I wanted David Deek to come on tonight to tell his story.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm
Look,
here
I'm sorry
as
about the
bit of
noise in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but I'm pretty sure that that Smolik had 2 bowls of gras tonight for.
Oh,
so I think
really?
that
Oh,
tunnel
geez.
is
So
after
the
working
pipes are
over,
getting
so I'm
pipes
not
are getting
sure.
a workout.
But,
Yeah. So yeah.
as
For your
Deeksy
question
said,
about the, sorry, can I just touch on the
yeah,
Melbourne
of course.
Croatia name thing?
Yep.
You know, the name was imposed on us, Melbourne Knights. We had to take that name. You know, we didn't want that name, and you know, if you've read about or heard or were at the AGM when it happened, you know, we didn't have much choices. You know, it was what Melbourne CSC for a year.
I have no idea what I just did. I have no idea what I just did.
We're still live over here.
I'm not sure if you can still hear me, yours or.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I'll press something.
Yeah. So let me
was trying
just. Yeah. Anyway, get the
just
video
trying to
back,
turn it
and
up
then
to speed, yeah.
I'll finish on that point.
Yeah, but no, it's a good point, and that's the exactly the same point that I would make as well, because it was something that was imposed. Now, we almost as Inata won 2 championships under that name, but again, it was a name that we did choose because we had to choose something other than the Croatian name.
But
But you've got to,
I also think we won it because Croatia was becoming independent finally. You know, the motivation to win and play was much higher. And if you speak to the Croatian national team players from the 90s as well, like, you know, the motivation was there. You know, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about fame, it was to promote Croatia's name, just like the Melbourne Croatia players and the Sydney Croatia players. I don't know if David's mentioned the statistic, but me and him were talking about it yesterday. 9 times Melbourne Croatia and Sydney Croatia made the finals in the
he
90s.
did, especially particularly in the
yeah,
90s. He talked about the Croatian club dominance in the
that's
90s.
remarkable. So
Absolutely
yeah,
remarkable.
if you ask me, I think the name should be returned to Melbourne Croatia. You know, we're not fooling anyone with the name Knights. Don't get me wrong, I love the Knights and they're a big part of my upbringing and everything. But you know, my parents always said idemo u Croaciju, you know, and no, everyone did. Idemo u Croaciju. So I don't
I've
know.
heard a few people say Melbourne Croatia Knights, you know, to incorporate both a bit like Adelaide Croatia Raiders do. But that's
I like that
but I
idea
know that
as well, just to keep the
Sorry?
recognizability in the world. Melbourne Croatian Knights, I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But I
if
know
you
Dixie
listen
was talking
to,
about that most of the followers on your Forever Croatia page do actually come from Croatia. What's some of the most surprising what's some of the most surprising feedback that you've received from the locals there?
well, they just
Positive and negative, I suppose.
couldn't believe what big players played for, you know, Melbourne and Sydney Croatia, and even Toronto. Like they had Dinamo Zagreb players, Hajduk Split players coming to play. You know, Željko Adžić, you know, he scored the first goal in the HNL for
Yep.
Dinamo Zagreb before. Sorry, that was after Melbourne Croatia, but you know,
That's
still
right.
that's a massive statistic. You know, and you know, Josip Biškić as well. He came from Osijek. You know, how many people know that? You know, and,
Željko relegated just. That's good enough for me.
Exactly. You know, what a legend. And then he goes back to the homeland, plays for Dinamo Zagreb, and you know, has a winery today. But you know, and then Toronto Croatia players were part of that first team. Like Ivica Grnja from Toronto Croatia, he was part of that team and part of the organization. I don't know if you have touched on that, but you know, big part of why that USA game happened at the Maximir in 1990 is people from Toronto, Croatia, Los Angeles, Croatia, and you know, people from the American Football Federation, Soccer Federation, who were friends with them. You know, they lobbied for that to happen, and you know, Croatia's tour to Australia as well. I don't know if you touched on that, but I'll repeat it anyway. 1992, Croatia plays its first game officially under FIFA's banner at Olympic Park in Melbourne. Me and David were talking about this last couple of days. Like, that should be common knowledge. And I hope, you know, with our page, at least a little bit, we've made people aware, but I'm pretty sure we have, because we've started some conversations. You know, now other pages are talking about it, podcasts. we posted a photo of Eusebio after Toronto, Croatia, when he played for Red, White, Blue, Adria, Chicago. And, you know, that page, Nogometne Vijesti, with like 100,000 followers, they posted that exact same photo with a caption where Eusebio scores a goal at the 1981 Croatian tournament in Chicago, I think. And he says, you know, long live a free and independent Croatia, like Eusebio.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Absolutely
you know,
incredible.
that's massive. And also big hello to Ante Warnchuk from Chicago. He watches this podcast and said I should come on it. Same as Vice Baždaric from Sydney, who's keeping me updated on whether or not I'm on the screen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually sent out a
it's
cheerio
massive.
and a portrait and to everyone that's going out to the tournament this weekend. But also, like, you've gone back there, just diverting a little bit from the podcast. You've gone back there. You've been back in Croatia, what, about 7-8 years, something like that?
Eight, yeah.
8
Same year
years.
that Damir moved back.
Yeah.
6 months later.
Well, Damir, I remember Damir went on the February just before, because he came back here for a little.
Yeah, no, I drove him to the airport, and then I said I'll see you in 6. Well,
just before COVID started, on February, and I go, yeah, so.
Yeah, back
so
then.
he was to blame for all the nastiness that came here to Melbourne. But anyway, like, what's it been like for you settling back in Zagreb? I'm just a joke. But what's it been like for you settling back in Zagreb? Have things changed there in the last 8 years? Are things getting better? Are they getting worse? Are you a local now? Are you still an Aussie Croat there? You know, tell us a bit about that.
I'm both. You know, I am an Aussie Croat. I'm very proud of it. You know, it's funny that it took me to move to Croatia to become a proud Australian. And I think, you know, because in Australia, nobody ever called you an Australian. You're always Croatian, Wog, you know. Come to Croatia and you're Australac, you know. But, you know, when you start to own it and when you're proud of it, people respect you more for it. You know, nećemo glumiti ono što nismo, bit ćemo ono što jesmo, you know. And I think that's why, you know, people like us when they do get to meet us, because it's not the bullshit that they read in the media. You know, they see who we are. We're, you know, humble, down-to-earth people. You know, ne pravimo se veći Hrvati od drugi. You know, but if somebody else notices that we are, thank you. But, you know, we'll never say that for ourselves. And, you know, just given how much we have contributed to Croatia's independence and, you know, its football journey, you know, I think we deserve a lot more credit. And, you know, hopefully we will. I've spoken to some people in the HNS years ago, and they said they had an idea of creating a museum with the jerseys of the Croatian diaspora clubs. This was actually before the page started. So I'd like to chase them up on that and see if it'll happen. And David Deek actually has a great idea. You know, why doesn't the Croatian national team have a third kit? You know, red, white, and blue, you know, just as a commemorative kit, you know, to honor all the Croatians around the world, because we kept
I've heard that suggestion so many times, just to have a third solid red, white, and blue kit, especially because when we play a red team, we can't wear the home kit. Play a white team, you can't wear the home kit. We always got to wear that away kit. Well, why can't we wear red, white, and blue at home? It's more of a home kit than what. And I think that would be a huge hit in the shops and amongst people all around the world.
I think we should push for it. We should get the presidents of all the Croatian soccer clubs to sign a petition. And obviously, they've got good connections inside the HNS, so why not? You know, let's at least try. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Doesn't succeed this time, might succeed in, you know, the next qualification round. Who knows?
I think they're going to add us after the next cycle. I think they can do the old Melbourne Knights, the big 3 stripes on the shoulder and then on the ribs, and throw Metro Travel on the front.
Or even old school sort of 70s, 80s, those Tommy Cummings ones with the white stripes going down.
Straight 3 red stripes, round collar, beautiful.
Quit smoking. You know?
Just touching on what yours was saying there before as well, like these clubs, the more I delved into our history, especially for the bigger clubs, that was the national team before we had the national team.
That's correct.
It's simple as that. So to pay homage to that, to have a third kit potentially with all the names of all the clubs that obviously got the journey. And like yours was said, which we discussed before, that 1990 iconic game that Harness, you know, commemorate every single October versus USA, there was Croats from Los Angeles and Toronto that were absolutely influential in that. And again, there's no surprise that Croatia did play a 3-game tour here in '92, and as you also said, that's the first official FIFA registered match as a new and independent country. You know, we were part of FIFA in the 40s, and Croatia's a successor of that, definitely. And the funny thing is, FIFA never suspended or cancelled our membership. They just updated it back in 1992. So for that to be at Olympic Park, like I was at that game, I love that. And then obviously the national team took off. 2 years after that date for me, obviously Croatia beat England, and there's so many big games, knocking out Germany in the quarterfinal in '98. But 2 years after that game, we knocked off Italy in Palmero 2-1.
Yeah.
And they were months before they lost the World Cup on the spot kick.
Yeah.
That game there put us on the map and
Yeah.
cemented us. And from that point, I'm talking, say, from 1952 Adelaide Croatia, and 1922 Milwaukee Eagles, which is the oldest Croatian club, all that journey up until that point, and then obviously the people in our homeland and the players and stuff completely took that off. It's all one big story to me. So it's not like the diaspora clubs, the Repka and that. It's all just ties into one. It really does. And that's why now when you go to an international tournament, you see flags from Toronto, Sydney, Melbourne, everywhere, Geelong, Canberra, Los Angeles. You see it everywhere. You appreciate it more, and you are connected to it because, like I said, it was a national team for the national team. I often ask this to myself and then others, like, I love the way my dad brought up me and my brothers, for sure, 100%. And it was always a Croatian way. And I won't change that mentality ever. And that's something I'm going to instill in my children, for sure, because we're too small to, bicker and stuff like that. But the thing is, sometimes I think that if we had a time machine or a crystal ball, and I could go tell my dad in 1989 right now, right, and go, one day you'll be watching your country under its own flag, own name, own colors, playing a World Cup final. I don't know what his reaction would be. I don't know if it would be optimism or Tislu, Didi Lech, like this. I don't know what he would say right now, And just that's the stories I want to preserve as well. I'm 37 now, and we went through the 18th birthdays, the 21st birthdays. Now it's the christenings and the weddings and stuff are over. I don't want to sound morbid, but it's only normal. Like, I come from a tight-knit community in Geelong. Now funerals are going to be more and more. And you go and you hear these eulogies and these people talking, and you feel saddened, and you feel like, I want to preserve these stories. Like, you guys are rock stars, what you've done. Even like the women, like cooking in the kitchen and stuff. Like, yes, our soccer clubs are based on success on the park and what we've won and plays and stuff, but there's so many stories of people that have done great things of our clubs, proper pioneers, and I want to preserve all that the best we can. So for them to see like a place or a time where Croatia didn't exist, and then knock out Germany in the World Cup in the quarterfinal, and then 20 years later play in the World Cup.
Final.
What a story! Like yesterday,
ridiculous.
But it was. We talked about that a few weeks ago as well. But when you're bringing all these videos and all these things, like from 1984, and I'm watching Steve Goyevich score against Preston Macedonia there in front of, I don't know, 1,500 people or whatever it is at Olympic Park, and you're there. And I feel like I've actually travelled in a time machine. There was also Ante Kasic who's putting up these old
from
videos as well
from
Clifton Hill Church, and I'm watching it, and I'm almost feel like I shouldn't be watching this. Like, I've actually time traveled, and I'm privy to something that was sacred, and I shouldn't be watching. And that's exactly what you guys have done, is actually created the time machine, and things like you go, oh my God, yeah, that's what it was like. Oh my, it's amazing, that kind of thing.
And we've got Mirko Kovac here saying, has anyone thought about collecting old projector footage from the demos in the 70s and 80s, maybe earlier even? It would be a shame to lose that. I have some very short snippets of a demo or two in the 70s. Again, even those things.
100%.
Yeah. For me as well. Look, soccer,
Definitely.
I've spent my whole life in soccer in some form or another, but it was never about the sport.
No.
When they say don't mix politics and sport and all that, for me, it was like that flag that was at the Dandy game. Yeah. For me, 30 years ago, it was the same as trying to get a flag on TV, no matter how controversial it might have been back in those days. These days, we're a little bit wiser, I guess, and we try not to expose ourselves too much to certain symbols, etc. But even in those days, if it could make the newspaper, sometimes even in a negative light, as long as you saw red and white checkers on the back page of the Herald Sun or the Age or whatever, we didn't exist as a people. That we weren't recognised as a people.
Well, remember the Westgate Bridge collapse, and there was a flag of a Croatian flag, the British flag, next to each other in 1976 or 7, on top of Westgate Bridge, and it was in the newspapers.
So it was promoting us as a people where otherwise we were shunned almost as a people. So same goes for everything. These kids, I think a lot of these kids are taking it on board as well. I can see a lot of them now overtly where, like, my Marley went to the city yesterday. Yeah, I dropped him off in Caroline Springs, of all places. Taylor's, I think it's Taylor's Hill. Went to the city wearing his Dinamo St Albans jumper. That's what I used to do in the old days. Sometimes provoke people on a train or in the city or whatever. But
Not that you like doing that.
But he just off his own bat, he chucked on his hoodie and he went for the city wearing. You know, some people go, "Why don't you know what you are? You have to wear it, or you have to." Today, some bloke goes, "Oh, what's that ring you're wearing, mate?" Fucking 30, 40 years ago, I could have been imprisoned overseas for wearing his fucking ring. And here, people didn't even know what the hell it was. So I still fucking, I wear it every day. This week. Touch one, touch all.
He's now, he's a member of the party now. But anyway, that's by the by. Tell us a bit. Yours are now again going again. You've returned there. You've been there for 8 years. Do you have any advice to anyone that's been thinking about returning? Is it a good time to return? Would you support it? Would you say no, don't even think twice about it? Or don't just stay where you are, or what's your take on the whole thing? Because I know there are a lot of people talking about it. We've talked about it on many shows in recent weeks, the last 12 weeks or whatever it's been.
Listen, I've always been a proponent of doing it and trying it. There's never going to be an ideal moment, but Croatia definitely is in a much better position today than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Or, in the 90s when Smolik was here, late 90s, that was the Wild West, everyone describes it. There was no rules, there was no laws, nothing, there were regular, armed robberies and everything. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. Croatia's a safe EU country. People's living standards are rising. Some of them are even matching, Australian wages, especially tradesmen. Our Croatian community is full of tradesmen. And, when the earthquakes were here, I'm like, why doesn't the Prime Minister get a plane full of tradies from Melbourne and Sydney to fix the joint? It won't take 5 years, it'll take a year. And they get paid, Aussie wages, because there's not enough maestri here. So maestri can come to your house, say whatever price, and people have to pay it, whether they have money or not. But you wouldn't believe a lot of people do have money, and the media says, this is funny. When I moved here in 2016, by reading the media articles in Croatia, you would have thought everyone's eating out of garbage containers, everyone's collecting bottles, everyone's poor. And then you come here, there's fucking Mercs, there's Bentleys around, you drive in the upper hills of Zagreb, you got triple-story Scarface palaces, like, what could novac, So not everyone's a criminal. People actually have successful businesses, they're working. Most people are just, average, they're middle class, but, they're living well, they're traveling, they're going to France for skiing in January, they're traveling to Spain, to Asia, everywhere. It's not how it was before. But you know what? I never moved here for money, and if you want to move here because of money, then forget about it, For me, it's always za dom spremni, not za dolar spremni. That's the way I always saw it.
I like that. That's cool.
And I didn't make that up. Damir Ljubicic did, so credit to him.
I was just going to say that sounds like Damir to a T, but like even talking about traveling and that, you've traveled so much more than I've traveled in the last 8 years. I've been to so many places, and I watch you there, green-eyed, with the green-eyed monster, watching you go here, there, and everywhere. Well, I'm looking at going for a drive down to Mansfield on the Sunday afternoon.
Mansfield's beautiful. Mansfield's beautiful. Great childhood memories there. But when you're here, it's not expensive. You hop in a bus to Budapest, you're there in 3 hours, and what costs you 20, 30 euros. Whilst traveling from Australia, you got to budget. $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, how much you need these days, and you got to search leave a year in advance. But what I wanted to say about that, when I moved here, I expected the standard to be that of Zimbabwe, and I didn't care because whole life going to folklore, going to Melbourne, Croatia, being taught the Croatian language, all that. I'm sure all of you in the studio can attest to that. Surely it was leading towards something. And I said, listen, at the time I was 23, if I don't try now, it's going to be a lot harder later. It's a lot harder when you're, married and you got kids and, whether your, wife's even Croatian, who knows? But if you move to Croatia, the chances of the wife being Croatian is a lot higher, and there's a lot higher chance that you'll stay in Croatia as well. And I tried it and, it actually wasn't that bad. When I landed off the plane in Croatia, I had 5 job interviews lined up when there were no jobs on the market, none. You went on moiposao.net, there were 20 jobs. Now you got 200 jobs. A lot's changed in 10 years. And when I came, everyone's like, "Šta radiš tu? Si odlaze, ti dolaziš?" And I'm like, I don't care. I would rather be happy in a gumeni chamac in Croatia than in a massive fuck off yacht in Australia.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
how many of those people that have actually left are coming back from Ireland and Germany and the like?
a lot. Most have returned from Ireland because they've realised Ireland's too expensive to live. You know, especially with rent just being too much. Germany a bit less because Germany actually is a good country to work and live. I mean, sorry, it's not beautiful. It's pretty, you know, grey and industrial, but you know, wages are higher and things are cheaper than in Croatia. But again, you know, what's more important to you? You know, if you're willing to sacrifice some of your living standard to live in Croatia, it's for you. You know, if having free big mansions and you know, a yacht and all that kind of stuff. Well, you know, there's actually people in Croatia with that too. You know, if you got that kind of money, why not come here and you know enjoy? You know, but what I'm trying to say is everyone should give it a try. You know, I'm not here to you know solid pamet whatever. I came here because my heart always belonged here. When I came here as an 18-year-old in 2011. I went out with university students in Zagreb to Sava to all these, you know, university places, and mladi pjevaju, vesele se, they're happy. Like I never ever seen something like that. You know, I've been to many Crow nights where you've played Spolge, but it's just different vibe. You know, it's just beautiful. You know, and everyone's speaking Croatian. They're not speaking English and then singing Croatian songs. Like I think, you know. A big part of identity is our language, and I think it's very important to maintain and preserve that language as well. And yeah, know the history, you know, of their parents, their grandparents, now great grandparents with the newer generations. And you know, I think it's great what David and me are doing because we're on two sides of opposite sides of the earth, but we're in communication 24/7. You know, like
sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, what's the future hold for both of you in terms of the page, you know, Forever Croatia, and outside of it as well? You know, like DC started talking about it, but then you came back on, so we didn't really get to the end of it. But what do you guys hope to achieve at the end? What's the end goal with Forever Croatia?
Well, we want to make people aware. We want it recognized in Croatian sporting history too. I want this to be taught in Croatian schools one day, so that it's on the same level as Janica Kostelic, you know, Goran Ivanišević. It's important, it has to be known. Eusebio, you know, second best player of the 60s and 70s after Pele, you know, wearing a Croatian jersey, you know, has to be known. You know, Melbourne, Croatia, champions of a continent, as David's, you know, said so much. You know, Toronto, champions of one continent, Melbourne, champions of another continent twice in a row. Like, come on, who does that? You know, like, all right, there are other nationalities too, the Italians, the Greeks, but, you know, for us, it meant just more. And, you know, back to your story on the train with the Croatian ring and your son in a tracksuit, you know, they didn't have to fight for their identity. They always had it. Greeks always, you know, went down to Lonsdale Street, had a Savlaki. Italians went down to Lygon Street. They support their team when it's the Euros World Cup, and that's, you know, that's it. They're established. We are now too, but 30 years later, you know.
And that's the thing yours was all touching on that. It's I think the key is just staying relevant. And I think what that means is securing our future with the next generation. If they understand it the way we do, to the passion and the levels that we do, then we will be around for a very long time. I mean, you look at the Italian clubs in Victoria alone, they merge for fun. They get bored and there we go, let's just merge. They're fizzling away. Even Sushi Mango said, you know, they're dwindling in everything they do outside of sport as well, outside of sport also. Sushi Mango put a photo of one of our weddings, flares, flags. We've still got that. I want to carry that on as much as possible. We lose that and we're done. Yeah. I think the key is staying relevant and like bridging that gap and obviously getting the youth involved, getting them proud of their stories. And the thing is, sometimes we post a photo and then you get feedback and be like, oh my God, that's my dad in that photo. That's my uncle. Like, wow, I haven't seen this photo before. And then people feel connected to it. I know even in North Geelong, like some young kids, they go point to their other friends and they go, look, that's my dad on the wall for whatever reason. Of course, you're naturally going to feel connected to that. I feel connected to North Geelong because my late uncle's in the first team. How can you not? You feel it's like an obligation for you to continue that. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think the key for us is just to stay relevant. Yeah. Anyone that can send us anything, even from a demo, whatever, we'll preserve it. Even if it's not sport. I know I will. Like I said, you know, I don't want to sound more, but going to these funerals, hearing these eulogies, it's really saddening that these people, such pioneers and all the great things they did, I want their story told forever.
Yeah, you don't want these
Yeah.
stories to die with them.
Never.
And they're not, you know, what always made me sad is when Mladi at the clubs, you know, would, oh, Vidioni Stari, those old, you know, this and that. But you don't know what they did. And once upon a time, they were Mladi in the 70s and 80s with their groovy haircuts and suits and, you know, with their protest signs. Like, that's amazing what they did. You know, they hijacked planes to recognize Croatia's name. Like, who would do that today? People, fuck, frustrates me. But
Look,
you
in
know,
defense of this new generation, and this in particular this younger generation that's say like really low 20s and high teens and stuff, I've noticed a much bigger sense of respect from them for the not only for the people older than themselves, but for the past and even their positive attitude. I know when you were saying like earlier on, like you'd go and you'd see them sing songs, it's different to being over there, but that's kind of changed here in the last half a dozen years as well. And I think that if you'll see the tournament, you'll probably see the tournament this weekend as well, is going to be testament to that. When these kids sing with all their heart and tears in their eyes and really identify with it, I think we're far from dead. And we've talked about it,
and has to be kept
on a number
alive.
of occasions. It is it's growing. There is a rebirth amongst this new generation, and I'm really enjoying watching it.
It has to be kept alive because the way I see it is these communities that we have in, you know, all over the world, Croatian ones, they're incubators. You know, they raise the Smoliks, the Spolks, the Davids, you know, of the world. You know, and you know if you know a certain percentage move it back to Croatia, that's Croatia's demography problem fixed. You know, we don't all have to move back. You know, but you know, say if a quarter or half could move back. That's our problem. We don't need foreign workers after that, you know. And then you leave back a brother or two back behind just to, you know, be
Send the
there
cash.
and be your support. Yeah, send the cash. Send the cash.
This is a plug. Never did any. Send some cash. 2 brothers have been left behind. Send the greenbacks, the pineapples.
That's right. Times are tough in Oz. Fine, but what I'm saying is like, you know, someone needs to stay back and keep those clubs alive, but you know, who knows? You know, out of actually, there's a lot of us here in Zagreb. There's a few hundred of us that I know that are in this Riaspora group everywhere.
Yeah.
Mississauga,
Tell us
Toronto,
about the Riaspora group. Tell us a bit more about that group. And in detail, like how many members do you have? What sort of activities do you have? And is that growing? And
growing.
Do you have any plans as well?
Currently 250 of us. You know, when I joined, there was only about 70 of us. When they started in 2015, there was about 10, 15 close mates from Canada, Australia, America, and it just keeps growing. You know, every week somebody's moving here, and we get together once a year on a ranch. We have a big Rakia Festa, you know, where we cook Rakia and fill our bottles for the year. We've got our Grange for 2024, 2025, and then in June at a Nogometni Klub Ravnica, which I'm pretty sure Damir spoke about, we have a Sveti Ante picnic, which is basically like the Croatian picnics we had in Australia, you know, like Footscray Park and stuff like that. You know, people with families, kids, it's beautiful. So we basically got a returnee community here, and yeah, it's just a great thing. And yeah, if anyone does decide to come here, reach out. We've got a big community and support network here. So when I first came here, I didn't know anyone, and I didn't want to. Honestly, I wanted to assimilate. And I did that for 2-3 years, and I heard about Riaspora through a few expats and joined. And you know, it's the best thing ever. You know, you need a plumber, you need a doctor, you need a lawyer. You ask in the group, bang, like somebody gives you a contact. Like that's massive, and that's what our oldies and grandparents did when they moved to Australia in the 60s and 70s. So that's massive to have that support network. So yeah. It's getting bigger and bigger. We're always planning new events. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we were in Gospic. We were invited by a Canadian-Croatian lady that owns a restaurant called the Maple Leaf or Javor. And, you know, we had a bit of a dinner dance 2 weeks ago. It was this, you know, they had a band from Slavonia come, and it was beautiful, you know. So, yeah, always things happening. And, yeah, I encourage anyone who wants to move here to move. Don't have to, but you know, it would be nice if you know we could fix our demography problem here. Yeah, you know, people staying back in Australia keep our club strong, so that in 10, 20, 30 years time, there's people you know still willing to move to Croatia and you know promote the Croatian name like their great grandparents will be by that point. You know. It all ties
So,
in. It's one global Croatia, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's right, and tying in the diaspora with the homeland. Any final thoughts and any messages for
Well,
all of our viewers? You know, from
I
sunny
wanted to
Zagreb.
touch. I wanted to touch on this. I remember when you and Smolik hosted the night train for Melbourne Nights. That was a great podcast, and you can see why you guys are so well versed here. And I remember you guys mentioned us a few times back then as well with the Melbourne Croatia quiz nights that we had in Zagreb. And I'd like to mention Robert Gojevic. It was his idea to start that thing. The rest of us helped him out here. But that was massive, and that really opened my eyes because he's got a massive archive of Melbourne Croatia footage, videos from the 70s and 80s when his brother Steve played. And we had quiz nights on the night, and Joe Šimonić would come, Mark Viduka would come, and they'd be talking like, excited little kids about this stuff because I brought it back to their childhoods. They're no longer stars; they're just one of us. And that's also, I think, one of the things in the background of our minds, which might have inspired it. And then, when that Australia Cup final happened and the media barrage that came, towards the Croatian community, I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't true. David was at the game. We weren't booing any welcome to Australia. They were booing the opposing team, as David was telling me. Like, they were just singing for their team. And I felt that banner, Forever Croatia, spoke everything, but also it needed justice, because that banner and that whole atmosphere that they put on for 90 minutes should have been talked about. And I'm glad now it's being talked about positively. We're not talking about the pre-rehearsed garbage that the media organized back then. It almost felt staged, like they had pre-written articles ready to bash us.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that we've taken the initiative, David and me, that we're telling our history, and all of us are telling our history. That's why people are, we should be the ones telling our history, not some, art student from Macquarie University in Sydney who has never met a Croatian person in their life. We have the facts, we have evidence, we have statistics, and thank you so much, David, for, backing me from day one and, spending all this time, making this page great. One thing is an idea, but another thing is to, capture the hearts and minds of thousands of people. And, people reaching out, grandparents, they're like, oh, I found the box, I got, photos from Calgary, Croatia in the 70s. Or, Zapruder footage, the film, they digitalized it, sent it over. Sydney, Croatia, Calgary, Croatia in 1978. No one's ever seen that footage, and now it's, seen its light of day. And then, like I said, David digitalizing so much quality footage like that. Even before this page started, if you go on YouTube and you see that Melbourne Croatia Footscray Just game in 1989, who put that up on YouTube? David Deek, And people have always talked about these stories, and we've heard it from our parents, but to actually see it is amazing. And I think that's what everyone relates to.
And, well, here's a very pertinent question, actually, from Matthew Pavlinovic. How do I get my hands on some Forever Croatia merchandise?
Message the page in the inbox, and we'll get one made up for you and send it to you in Perth. A big hello to you.
What have you got? Just T-shirts? What have you got? Jumpers?
T-shirts, jumpers. There's a few different designs. There's this one in black and white. That's the first classic one. David's wearing the jumper version.
The black one's good for us corpulent people. Like it's a slimming version.
Well, food's good here in Croatia, so
I can imagine. Is the food still as good? Because I've heard varying sort of stories.
Well, when you were with us at that restaurant before the Dinamo Atalanta game 4-0, Cevapi were very good, and I'm so sad that you didn't get to try one. But next time you come, you will try it with me and Damir, because it's around the corner from Damir's place. And David's been a big fan of the restaurant. So can't wait for you guys to come visit, and we'll take you there.
Next year, we'll see you over there.
Exactly. Thanks for having us in this program. Thank you everyone for following, everyone reaching out. Matthew Pavlinovic, get in touch with us. Just big hello to everyone, David.
No, absolutely.
Yours, thanks very much for joining us, mate. Enjoy your time over there, and keep up the fantastic work, mate. We're loving it. We love watching the videos. We love looking at the newspaper articles, the clippings, whatever you're putting up. It's absolutely fantastic that you're putting our name out there on the
Thank
you
you
got
for
yeah,
the
feet on the
support.
ground.
Thank you for the support. You guys kept the torch burning all those years. You know, I remember me and David as kids were reading you guys on the Knights Army forum, the MelbourneCroatia.net forum, you know, Black Dog, and that cute photo of you as a kid.
Hooker with a penis, big old.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
it's
Mickey
actually
Yob,
quite a wonder that
you know.
you've grown up being level-headed and don't have any psychological
Another-
damage.
well, that's always up for debate. My missus is a psychologist, so you can ask her. But big hello to her as well, watching, you know, here Croatian time, and what's it called? Yeah, Mickey Yov, he was a great Melbourne Croatia stats man as well. Haven't heard from him in ages, but you know, if he's watching or someone still in touch with him, get in touch with us. You know, give us what you have. And anyone else watching, if you have rare footage,
You've
send
already
it over
given
to
us
David.
You've got to give it back to him.
Oh, is that pink Melbourne Knights DVD?
Yeah, that's that one.
Oh, that's the one. That's gold. So that's got the Hajduk split tour. That's got Croatia's tour of Croatia. And I also wanted to mention that, like, it's always, you know, like father, like son. David Deek's father, Ivica, if you watch the footage from Metkovic, he's waving the Croatian flag at Nereta's ground with Melbourne and Sydney, Croatia on the pitch in 1990. That's massive. And so no wonder we are how we are, you know. My father was a singer. David Deek's dad was, you know, what was he, accountant at North Geelong, Croatia? He was always involved, treasurer.
Secretary in North Geelong. But my dad's claim to fame was that 2018 World Cup when he was rocking that air guitar after Argentina, and that made the FIFA official video at the end of it. He actually made Optus Sport as well. You just see him rocking an air guitar with long hair while his three sons are bald. So yeah.
But yours all veliki pozdrav.
Yeah. Veliki pozdrav,
everybody there
thank
in
you so
Zagreb.
much. Thank you for keeping the legacy going and starting up this podcast, picking up where you left off with the night train. It's good for me and other, you know, fellow returnees here in Croatia. When we watch it, you know, we feel like we know what's happening back home, you know. Both with the old podcast and this one now. Malina Vukasovic, she always watches too, messages me about the show.
Yeah,
big hello to her brother Steve too. So that's it. Thank you for having us, and David, thank you for representing us on the ground there. You know, you're like a third brother to me. So thank you for everything.
You're my fifth brother, mate.
Thank you for the kind words and keep up the great work.
He's still got another 3 hours of his lunch break left anyway.
I actually have to go back. back.
No worries, mate. Enjoy.
Back to the official one. No worries. Take care. Either. Take
Catch
care.
you, mate.
Bye.
Dobar dan.
Yeah, not that I've ever watched Seinfeld, but I remember that bloke.
It hasn't been set up yet.
No, it hasn't.
Download the Google Home app.
Oh, the Google Home's going off here off the top of the fridge. But Dixie, any final words, mate? Thank you as well for joining us tonight. Fantastic, mate. It's always a pleasure seeing you, mate. Haven't seen you in a while, but what do you reckon, mate? What's next for Forever Croatia? Merch. Did we mention merch yet?
We did mention merch. Yeah, hit up the page if you want it. We don't make anything from outside of Croatia. It's all inside because we give them the money. I think we've got enough here in the diaspora, so let's help. There's a small business that does all the printing and stuff. So if you want merch, that all goes to him. We don't make a cent out of all this. We do it out of because we want to, we like to. Just a big sort of shout out to everyone who has anything, whether it be an article or if you think it's irrelevant, just send it to us. We'll find use of it, I'm sure. If it's not straight away, we'll definitely find use of it. My brother Evie's still looking for 2014 Crow tournament footage when North Geelong won against Adelaide Croatia. So if anyone's got that, please send it. They'll make his day. Make mine as well. Actually, I missed that tournament, funnily enough, and that's the only one we won. So what a chance of that. Wollongong tourney 2014. Any footage, send it over. But no, thank you guys, Sucko and Charles, for doing what you do. Like you also said, you guys were carrying the torch and the flame ahead of us. And there's a lot of people older than me that I look up to in our community still, and just in awe of what you guys are doing. Sort of, like I said, not everyone had to play soccer to be a rep clubs. Even being noisy on the testers, that was enough. That was enough to draw me in as a kid. And a big shout out to those people. You know who you are, that's for sure. So nishta, hvala vam.
That's
Thanks for coming on the show, mate.
Thank you very much, mate.
Pleasure to have you. I'm sure we'll have you on the show again as well.
We're going to go to a short break and we'll be back with our next guest, Michael Calandrella, the new coach.
Don't go anywhere.
Melbourne
Don't go
Knights.
anywhere.
Give
We'll
us
be
a
back
few
in like
seconds.
1 minute.
Kad zapjevam partija mi sudi, neka sudi pjevač ćemo ljudi. Ne boj se rogova ni lažnih bogova, šta nam mogu lanjski snjegovi. Ne boj se tragova ričućih labova, šta će crni oblak planini.
All right, we are back. So thank you to Yorzor and Deeksy for coming on tonight's show. But now we have our second guest for the evening, and that is the newly appointed Melbourne Knights coach. Let me know if I pronounce it correctly. Michael Calandrella.
Spot on.
No, sure, it's not like Chalandrella or something like that.
There's no
Or
itch.
is that if there's an I,
No.
if there's an I before the A, then it's a ch or something like that.
Or is your surname actually Pearty? I've heard something.
You've heard?
I've heard.
Yeah, well, wife's relations.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We'll get into that
firstly,
in a
welcome and congratulations on the appointment.
Thanks so much.
So plenty has obviously been spoken about on various social media platforms, etc. But you've just come off a highly successful season.
Seasons.
Seasons, that's correct. And now Melbourne Knights have been lucky enough to snag you for season 2026. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where have you been the last couple of years, and what's brought you to Knights at the end of the day, the next season?
Yeah, so the last couple of years, I went over to Altona City, who were looking to do a project and get into the VPL for the first time, and they asked me to come on board and sort of do a bit of a rebuild and see if we can get them up. And fortunately, we were able to get them promoted to VPL, and then quickly from there, I went over to Brunswick Ulver this year. Sort of same thing. Needed to do a bit of a rebuild. Hadn't had success for quite a while, and they asked the same thing. And yeah, we had a great season, and fortunately enough, we were able to get them promoted to VPL 1 as well.
So you're a fixer.
Yeah.
Well, you've been promoted twice in 2 years, but even going before that, I know you did play the game as well. I know you played down at Sunshine Heights.
Yeah, that's right.
As, yeah, I've got the inside goss, mate.
Yeah.
Sunshine Heights as a junior.
Yeah,
Deer Park boy,
correct.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've done your research.
Oh, Luke Stolitzer told me
Oh,
all about you.
Stolitzer, yeah.
Told me all about you.
He's a good man. fella.
Tell us, yeah. So you went from Sunshine Heights. Where else did you play?
Yeah,
in,
it was the Super League back then. In those days, it was a great comp, as we all know. Played a Super League with them, and then went off to spent a bit of time at Gully when I was in the old VPL. Sort of made my way through there and was playing resis at the time, and you know, it was a point where ready to sort of crack the seniors, and probably on the fringe, and some mates decided that they wanted to go play senior football at Bologna.
Yep.
So very close mates, and some Croatian boys too, and so we decided to do that, and went and played some senior football there with some very good. If you remember Bogdan Bonk and
yeah, absolutely.
Tommy Cummins, and,
Absolutely. Oh my
and
God,
the boys,
champion.
yeah. So got to play and learn quite a bit from them, and yeah, played a bit of time there, and sort of went on to play with a bit with Avondale and Brimbank, and sort of finished my time, and then got into coaching once I had a young family.
And you went off to, I believe, Box Hill very early on. Is that right?
No, actually, yeah, I was doing a bit of junior stuff with the kids back then, and did a bit of time at Dinamo. I was with my kids back then, and I remember the reserve coach had just moved on, and Guffey said, "Mick, do you want to step in?" And did a bit of time at Dinamo, and then Paco when it was back in the MPL 1.
Yep.
In 2018, had a very good season there. Vitali was coach, and we finished 4th in the table. I took the 20s that year and had a very successful year. And yeah, then Box Hill, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I decided to stay out of the game. I had a feeling it was going to be a bit of a mess, which it was.
Yeah.
And stayed out of that. And then yeah, the Altona City thing came up, and took off from there.
Yeah. At some point there, little birdie told me that you were possibly going to be an assistant coach at the Knights. Is that correct? Was that something that was on the cards or?
No, I don't
No?
know what.
No, okay, no one. We won't
Yeah.
touch on that anyway.
But speaking of Dinamo, you still have a pretty strong link with Dinamo, and I did receive some correspondence from none other than Tuna Adam Tenanini,
Yeah,
who's
not
like I said
surprised.
earlier, he's a part of the furniture at Dinamo now. But I think he sent a photo of you guys in Vegas, or is it a birthday or something? I'm not too sure. But what we say, kumovi with Tuna. So big shout out to Tuna.
His
So,
family.
his family and his family at St Albans Dinamo as well.
Yeah,
We feel he's just an absolute gentleman
Absolutely.
down there. But tell us, 2026. So how long have you been in the job now? Maybe what is it, a week?
about a week.
About a week or
Yeah.
so? Have you got stuck in? Have you started looking at potential signings or who you might be keeping? And you don't have to give too much away,
Yeah, that's
obviously, but you've been in talks with certain people and trying to see how you
yeah,
can bolster the squad or
absolutely. That's
streamline.
and that's what the last week's been about, Anthony. So, since the club got relegated, before I was appointed, obviously, a lot of players moved on already. So there's quite a bit of a build to do there. There's a good core remaining, but we definitely need to add. There's no doubt about it. So the last week has been about touching base with players, finding the right players, finding the right characters, and I think the next 6 weeks that's going to be the most important thing and the most challenging thing.
And you've got a number of players already in mind?
Yeah, definitely talking to players by the day. Being nights, quite a few players are reaching out to me as well,
Okay.
which is good. And a couple of players that I know that I feel fit at the nights, and as far as the culture goes and the right attitude, and they're the sort of ones I'm looking to target. I think that's important that we bring in the right player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you don't mind bringing in a youthful player, and backing the youthful player. Is that something that you're maybe looking at?
Yeah, I'm one. When it comes to the young players, if they're 19 or 29, it makes no difference. If they can do the job, they'll get a go. So, this year I had a young boy playing for me. He was 19. He started most games. The only thing with kids, obviously, they have their ups and downs.
Yeah.
So, I've got no issue giving a young player a go, but they have to be up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are there any names that you might be able to drop tonight on tonight's show that may be?
Not right now. It's that competitive out there
Yeah,
at the
I can
moment.
imagine.
So, you really do have to keep things under wraps. The market's definitely changed as far as players that are going around, and we're speaking with coaches just yesterday, and it's a lot of players on 2-year deals now. So it's really the pool has diminished quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you're looking at not only players in Melbourne, interstate.
Yeah.
Going to make sure you nail the right visa players. So it's a fairly intense process.
Do the rules change now in
Yeah.
VPL 1 as opposed to NPL?
They do. So in VPL 1, we can have a 3+1 Asian or Oceania.
Yeah.
So we get the extra visa spots, and those spots are crucial, especially in the VPL leagues. They tend to make the difference.
Because we've seen a massive turnout of Japanese players in the NPL here and A-League. So the NPL especially, look at Heidelberg. If you turn on TV on a Friday night, YouTube, and you watch an NPL game, and there are pretty much Japanese players scattered through almost every team.
Yeah.
What's attracting them to Australia?
Yeah, there's quite a few Japanese agents that work in Australia, and the Japanese boys are more than happy to come out and enjoy the lifestyle a bit as well. And if you get the right Japanese player, they can be very handy. Like the boy at Heidelberg, the one that went to Dandy Thunder as well.
Yeah.
And now South. I think he's gone to South. But yeah, really, really good players. So if you get the right Asian there, they're good players, and they're actually great to work with. Very good mannered people and
Disciplined.
and very disciplined. Yeah, very good workers. So I understand why coaches like them.
Yeah, and now with this championship, right? It's only, what does it go for, 8 weeks or something like that? Those players that have now, some of them have left NPL clubs, other NPL clubs. Let's say they've gone to Preston or they've gone to Heidelberg to have a crack at this championship. Can they come back? Is that sort of, what's the window? Let's say that championship finishes, the NPL season hasn't started. Can they then say, all right, I've just played at Avondale in this Australian championship for 8 weeks. Can I come back and play for the Knights? For
Yeah,
example?
so I think it depends on the agreement. So there are players that have signed permanently for the championship, and then they'll continue
In the
into the
NPL.
NPL. and there are other players that have signed purely for the championship and then will go back.
Yeah.
So it depends on the agreement between the clubs. And that's another thing that's sort of making recruitment a little harder at the moment because these championship teams have loaded up on players. So some of them have got 30 on their books. So that's, reducing the pool even more. So it's another angle that we haven't had to deal with that I'm finding right now.
Is there a chance that some of them might become more frustrated and wanted to leave?
Yeah, I think that might be the case. No doubt, especially with the big numbers, and some players will definitely lack game time. So I think once the championship sort of finishes off, there'll be definitely be some movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the youth teams or some of the younger players at Knights at the moment that played probably 23s this year, or was it 19s? Was it 19s this year? 19s, 17s? Have you had a chance to sort of have a look at them or speak to people about some of the younger boys that might be there and the potential that possibly there's a pool of players there you can draw on as well?
Yeah, so I had a good chat to Marijan Svitkovic, who's the 23s coach of Knights, and
He's staying on?
He's staying on.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's given me a good rundown of a few of the young boys that are there that he feel may be ready to possibly train with the senior squad and wants to keep an eye on. I know he went with a very young team this year, and he wanted to build on that and give him a bit of experience. So they may have did it a little hard this year, but I think long term will be good for him. So yeah, I've had a few convos with Marijan, and he's been really good. So he'll keep me posted on what's going on in the 23s. I'll definitely keep an eye on it as well, and he'll also keep an eye on the 19s as well and see who he can bring up through the ranks. Yeah.
So you've come up from State 1, obviously,
Yeah.
with Altona City, brought them up to VPL 2, and then jumped ship to Brunswick Juve.
Yeah.
And I know you're a Juve supporter anyway, deep down. So that was probably a gig that you would have loved to have had, and you had that and promoted them.
Yeah.
So that's huge for a club like Juve. It's got a storied history,
Absolutely.
and probably deserves to be a lot higher than what they've been languishing in recent decades, really. You come to the Knights now as well. Have you been watching it, kept a keen eye on VPL 1, even though you've been down on those leagues? And do you think there's much of a difference drop or between VPL 2 and VPL 1?
Yeah, I think I watch quite a bit of VPL 1. I watch across the 3 leagues, so a lot of MPL as well. I think the difference between VPL 2 and VPL 1 is they'll punish errors more in that league than they would in VPL 2. You might get away with a few more things in VPL 2, where in VPL 1 you'll be punished for it. So it's a tough league. There's no doubt about it. You can see Bentley took a couple of years, and Georges took a couple of years in there to get it right. So, and there's clubs that have dropped out of NPL many years ago and still trying to get out of VPL 1. So it's if you look at it, there's not a lot between. I was actually doing some analysis on it the other day, and I was having a look at Eastern Lions, who finished 3rd last, and besides a couple of blowouts against the better teams, they were only losing games by a goal.
Yeah, right.
So
It's close.
It's close, right across the league. So, and there's no easy games in it.
Absolutely. And Buleen's a huge club.
Yeah.
There's all these other clubs that are coming in. You've got a battle Fitzroy Serbia, which presents a different problem. And North Geelong's come up there, so there's a derby. There's a lot of these competitive games that are going to be happening regardless of who's on the park. You've been here for a week, but you've married a Croat as well, so you are familiar with the culture and that. What's your take on the last week? What's it been like?
It's been really good. And obviously the board have been fantastic and really transparent and honest about where the club's at and where they want to be and where they want to take the club, which I found very comforting. But I think the biggest thing I've taken out of this week, Rob, is that the support from the Croatian community, not only from people at Knights but people from Dinamo as well, and everyone sort of reached out either by phone or message or whatever it is, and saying, Mick, all the best, and we're behind you guys, and we really want Knights back up there. So, and that's not only coming from Knights supporters, it's Dinamo as well. So you can see what the club and what football and everything means to the Croatian community. So for me, that's been a big takeaway for this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of board members, we've got Rob Bennarts here just sitting behind the camera, who's brought in some cordial. I think it's Coddy's cordial. Maybe some
vanilla.
antique vanilla
antique
cordial, which will
Yeah, is it like a
Just,
lime, flat lemon lime?
yeah, it could be.
Lemon,
We'll
okay.
have to try that one. I'm not going to put
I hope Stella's not watching.
too much
But
of it in
anyway.
there. Hopefully you don't.
Don't worry, it's all good. But tell us a bit about yourself. Well, I'll start one thing. I've heard that you're a bit of a hard ass. I heard you don't take any shit, which I
Yeah.
think is something that this club really needs at the moment. But you're also a loans manager or something,
Mortgage broker.
a mortgage broker,
Yeah.
and you're Calabrese.
Foggiano.
For John, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, my old man's Foggiano. My mum's Sicilian.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your mum's Sicilian,
Yeah.
right? So you lend people money. I thought you were just happy to see me there, but it's a different bulge there. I'll go stand over on this side of the thing. But no, but that's, I mean, do you enjoy that? I mean, that's a completely different world from
Yeah,
football.
it is, yeah.
And how do you find that balance between football and
it's good. I've been doing it for quite a while, so the balance is good, and football takes me away from that as well. So yeah, it's something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have kids?
Yeah, 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, 20, 22, 20 and 18.
Wow, yeah.
So they're a little bit
They're
older.
not little anymore.
No, they're not, mate. And they support my journey, and so does my wife. And you know, being at a Croatian club, and you know, it's yeah, they're all excited.
You know, and like you said, now it's so hard to get out of this league. Realistically, we probably have to sort of semi-expect we can't jump back up in the first season. Would love it,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, and you hope for it. You will do your best to do so. But I think there's probably more of a long-term project. And I
Yeah.
think you're seeing that as well.
I think so.
What's your ultimate goal? You know, where do you see this going? Because obviously you've gone in. I don't think it's a coincidence that you have gotten promoted twice in a row. It doesn't matter that there's 2 different clubs. That's got something to do with your philosophy. Where does your philosophy take you now? Yeah.
Yeah, look, the ultimate goal is to get Knights back in the NPL. You know, I think everyone, and as we were talking about before, the support from other football clubs in the NPL as well, that the people that reached out from other clubs and said, Mick, we need Knights back in the NPL.
Yeah.
We need it, and
Yeah.
they need to be there. So, you know, I think everyone knows that. So the ultimate goal is definitely to get Knights back up. Yes, it's going to be challenging, but I think, you know, I think we need to get the show, I think, the supporters, and bring back some joy to the supporters, and at least show that we're going on the right direction. And I think if they see that and see what we're building to, I think from there the sky's the limit. But it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Look, this might be a bit of a question from out left circle, left whatever. It's a weird question anyway.
Yeah.
And it probably opens up a whole can of worms. But
Sure.
you want to talk about you've got to buy success, you've got to buy players, you've got to buy all of that kind of thing. But surely there's something else. There's another X factor that's there. What is that X factor? What is it you look for in clubs, in players, in supporters, in all of that?
Yeah, you know, I think obviously if the club backs what you're trying to do, and they see what you're trying to do, and they get on the journey, it makes things a lot easier. You know, I'm very, you said before, I'm all about discipline and the rest, and I am. And I think you have to have the right player for that. And I'm very big on building good change rooms. So that's something that I won't deviate from. If I'm not happy with something in the change room, I'll deal with it right away. Because I think once you've got harmony in that room and everyone's on the same page and the same journey, I think things track along a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm big on, and something that I'll introduce at Knights. Not saying it wasn't there already, but something that I'll definitely bring in. And I want players that I think the players as well, you know, every job's important, Rob, but I think, you know, Knights carries a little bit of an extra responsibility. So I need players that understand that, for one, and who are ready to go on this journey, because it's going to be a tough one. But if we can bring joy and success back, and bring joy to the supporters, it's going to be very rewarding.
Yeah, and being so close to the community. Sorry,
No.
being so close to the community, you've seen that the last 20 years or 25 years, the Knights haven't hit the potential that the club certainly could have and possibly deserves. Is there something that you could pinpoint, without being too damning, or or pointing the finger. There's something that you see like that really needs to be changed at the club from as an outsider, and you see, you know what? Because I've heard so many times other players from other clubs going, my God, this club has got so much potential. This club could be this club could be that. I would love to play for that club, but what's that but you see, like without naming names or anything like that, but there's got to be something that's
I think it's a good question, by the way. I think one thing that stands out for me and watching Knights growing up and back in the day, I remember how aggressive Knights were. I remember the hunger on the pitch. I remember that if you were playing against Knights, you knew you were up for a battle. I remember it was hostile. And that was something that really drew. I used to go watch a lot of Knights games with my Croatian friends, and something that stuck with me. And I think, and I like to play a bit of an aggressive style of football as well. So I want to bring a bit of that back, and I think that's something the supporters will enjoy as well.
Bring back the biff.
Absolutely. But Yorzel that we had, Yorzel Kolakušić that we had on the show earlier, you said you went to school with his brother.
Absolutely, Nevin,
it's very 6 degrees of separation. But just to quickly go back, because there's been a few messages that have been sort of lingering there. But Chris Malik or Krešimir Malic from overseas sent through, I don't know if you read them already, about for Croatia. He got Bojanac to wear they got Bojanac to wear the top on his show. But Chris Malik also, former Slatky's son.
Yes, he was
the bass player, predecessors of Major Minor. So he sends his regards. He's listening in, as is his brother Mark as well. Mark there, he sent some messages through to us as well.
Because up to him, Mickey said he spent a bit of time with him over in Croatia recently. So
exactly that. So former bass player.
There goes the girl again. that was
former bass player and
Hrvatski or something. It was a bit extra in this one.
And Hrvatski Branitelj also. We need to mention the head of the Foreign Volunteers Association over there, and I very closely keep tabs on his posts on social media. Ante Starcic as well, so I spoke to him at the Junior Crow Cup at Melbourne Knights only a couple of weeks ago as well. He's doing some fantastic things. He's really getting into his music, so thank you for tuning in. Matthew Pavlinovic, all the way from Perth. Congratulations on your appointment, Michael. So all the way over there in the Swan Valley, I think, of Midlands, down there. Ante Starcic also says, congratulations on your appointment. Australia, someone saying, let's have a good Australia Cup run next year. That'll be good. Joe Sladdick, wish you all the best and bring our club back to its prime. And that's another super coach who just coached the under-12s Keon Park to the state championship at the Matildas on the weekend, Joe Sladdick, and he was pretty happy. And his boys in that team, and we've been following him as well. He's a great contributor to our show. Tony Gurgic.
Sladdick as well.
Oh, there you go.
Tony Gurgic need players that play for the shirt again instead of just passengers and backpackers. So that's maybe the thing. You got the aggression, but also sometimes when the club means a little bit more to a player than just a paycheck. That's what I think Melbourne Knights, and there's a fair few clubs around, but Melbourne Knights really used to have that where, speaking to the boys earlier, it was like playing for a national team. Yeah, getting a jersey Melbourne Knights or Melbourne Croatia senior team would have been akin for me as a kid of playing for if there was a country at the time, Croatian national team. That was the pinnacle of everything. So
we talk about all these mercenaries coming, and that word comes up with players that pop in and they're mercenaries. Well, then be a fucking mercenary. Yeah, then be that. That's what I'm saying. Put your neck on the line. Right. Be like a French Foreign Legion. Excuse my French. My Sicilian. but you know what I mean. That's what I'm saying. You want that, and that's absolutely beautiful to hear.
You want to make Knight Stadium or any club that you play for. You want people to hate going there to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without even kicking a ball.
Yeah.
It's going to be in their head thinking, fuck, I don't want to go to that joint. I don't want those people jumping up on that fence and fucking curse me like we used to. David Skeen from Wollongong Wolves once as a 12-year-old. I abused him through the cyclone fence underneath the foundation members. He went to fight me. And David Radcliffe at Socceroo had to hold him back. He was going to bash. He went to bash me, my cousin. And they would have fucking gone on that bus back to the airport thinking, where were we today? I don't want to fucking go. I'm going to go play for, Sutherland Sharks instead in the NPL. So, if we can get that mongrel, get the crowd involved to make it as hostile as possible in a legal way, I think that'll go a long way as well.
And I think it's important because I felt it a little bit this year at Juve, where every team that came to play Juve because of the name, they wanted to knock us off.
Yeah.
And that's going to be amplified at Knights, especially Knights being in VPL 1. every team's going to come to knock the Knights off. So, you know, we have to be ready for that, and we have to be up for that. And that sort of carries on from what we were saying before.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And discipline. Obviously, if you want to be aggressive, you need that discipline at the same time. You can't just be aggressive and let it all loose. You know what I mean?
But when does pre-season start?
We'll be in about mid-November.
Mid-November. And when's the season start? Do we know yet?
Early Feb. Yeah.
Do we know that? Or do you have to wait till January to find
out?
2 weeks before. Probably.
Yeah, right.
And there'll be some work done. We were talking about it earlier as well around fixturing. So we'll see, hopefully, that there's not too much clashes now with you've got North Geelong and Knights in VPL. You've got Dynamo and Dandy in NPL. So if there can come to a compromise between the clubs, obviously in conjunction with Football Victoria. And what Rob was saying earlier, the gold medal night, the VS, well, what's it called now, Football Victoria gold medal night was on Friday night. And there was a pretty good news story that came out of that where Melbourne Knights, St Albans Dynamo, North Geelong and Dandy City representatives that were at the gold medal night posed for a photo. Yeah. Now, I don't have a copy of that photo at the moment.
I heard about that photo.
It is on, I think, the Football Victoria, maybe their social medias, in front of their banner. So all 4 clubs in one group photos, 30, 40 odd people, which is absolutely fantastic.
Ilya Dragicevic brought that up, and he was so proud of the fact that all these clubs could stand there together, proudly, you know, with one cause and one, you know, goal in mind. I don't think that's happened for a very long time.
And it was great to have the cheer from North Geelong winning some awards.
Amazing, yeah.
So
Anthony Barnabas, yeah. We didn't actually bring him up. He was Player of the Year for VPL2. So I mean, he would have played against him. Had a great season.
Potential transfer target for Melbourne Knights.
Probably played in a more apt role.
Oh, Dandy City's already got.
Well, no, just saying that Barnabas probably played in the more apt role a bit further up, where he wasn't chasing. That's not his strength, you know, but his strength is his actual strength and getting a bit further forward and creating chances. So that's fantastic.
Knights is a bit closer to Geelong than Endeavour Hills, so you never know. We'll see. There could be some other boys out there at North, but definitely a big job ahead, no doubt.
Yeah.
Now in this sort of interim period, trying to sign players, you've got the championship, you've got all sorts of things going on. People that might, there's players that, like I said, that have left. So who was it? Bramwell. He's gone to. Was it Heidelberg?
He's gone to Heidelberg.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's just for the championship.
Yep.
I know there's other clubs that are trying to sign him for next year.
Steve White's gone to Hume, as long as Oldfield.
Yeah.
They're both gone to Hume. And I'm not sure about anyone else. Heard he's gone back to Essendon.
Sorry. Taking merits to the spot. But there were some youngsters this year that we saw sort of come through. Thomas Karlovic, who had Aiden, I think Grganovic was there, and there's a couple of other boys that have been sort of on the peripheries. Hopefully we can see them come through, because we would have seen, again, we don't, my kids are at Dynamo, but seeing the impact of a young local boy come through into the seniors and do so well and have a breakout season, now end up at Victory, does massive things psychologically for the crowd as well.
Yeah.
So he became an idol for these juniors.
Yeah.
Absolute idol. They idolise that. My kids don't. My youngest doesn't talk about Messi and Ronaldo. He talks about Oliver Dragicevic.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get that, because that was me as a kid at Melbourne Knights.
Yeah.
The Ante Beloved's, the Jorzo Antolovic's, the Andrew Marts, they were the other pictures that I had stuck on my school diary, not pictures of whoever was playing at the time, bloody Lothar Matthäus and whatever else. So hopefully one of these young kids can really have a breakout season, and then hopefully carry on, play NPL next year if you get promoted. And then who knows, the world's their oyster after that. But hearing that you've got a good track record with youth, younger players, and getting them in, obviously if they're ready, and blooding them, that'll be absolutely fantastic, I think. And from a wider club perspective, juniors, so they see that pathway going from the 14s, 15s, 17s, 19s, whatever they've now changed to the 20s, to see that there is a pathway there, so that they stay motivated and they can have a crack somewhere down the track.
Peter Finka is asking, tell us a bit about your support staff, your assistant coaches.
Yeah. So I've got Anthony, my brother. He's been with me for years, and both my sisters and Danny Genovese. You might remember him. Played VPL back in the day, Green Gully.
Yeah.
So they've been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
They've been with me through the journey, and it just makes things easier for me. They know how I work. Not the easiest sort of to deal with.
No.
So it's good to have them there, because I don't have to worry about them. They know what I expect, and I know that everything they do is at a very high quality. So I think it's important that you got that relationship with your support staff, and they form a very good team. There's no doubt.
But from a former coach to a newly appointed coach, Paul Mugditch, or Paul Magic as he's known, from former Melbourne Knights coach and captain and all-round junior and legend of the club, sends his all the very best for you as well.
Thanks,
all the
Paul.
way from Zagreb. So he's overseas at the moment. Wish the new coach all the best. So there you go, from one coach to another. That's
what sort of feedback have you been getting from other coaches, other clubs around? You know, I'm sure you've had massive feedback. I saw just on the Knights post, you had huge feedback just there. But
just obviously the first thing is big job, Mick. You know,
it's big.
And it is.
Yeah, it is.
And
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. Just it's been positive, very positive, and like everyone just wants to see Knights back up. They need them in there, it's funny that you see these different NPL clubs all supporting the Knights in their own different way and wanting them to do well, and sort of sad and disappointed that they've been relegated, and sometimes these things happen. But they're all positive that Knights will get there eventually, and they'll be back where they should be. So yeah, I've been overwhelmed by the positive feedback.
And any clubs that you're worried about? Well, not so much worried about, but who do you think are going to be the ones threatening more so in the league this year?
Look, there's a lot of good teams in there. You know, I think Victory coming down, I think they'll have those academy teams are quite good, very good actually. You know, you've got your Northcotes in there, your Bulleens who've been at this for a while. And you got a team like North Sunshine who's they're doing really well. They're on the up. Good friends of mine, they've built a team over about 5 or 6 years, and they only do slight adjustments, and that goes a long way as well, right? And they play some really good football. So and the rest, it's going to be a very competitive league. So it's won't be taking anyone lightly.
And Joe Slatic says Knights need a Gattuso-like Keller, a person who understands passion and what the emblem means to play under for our community. So you got any sort of similarities to Gattuso?
Apparently so.
Sometimes I was actually surprised to see him get the head gig, to be honest.
But he's such a legend.
But they needed a bit of a wake up.
A bit of shake up there. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
What else? Who's this one? That's Sartridge. I think it would be a good team for Melbourne Knights with the coach. Do a proper job as quality to bring good players. Let's all move on. Yes, that is right. And someone's asking, he's heard he's staying. So is he still currently sort of?
We are still in contact.
Still in contact.
He's still keen to explore where they can come back. So
it
was obviously down to what sort of coach we got in. A lot of players were waiting for a coach.
Of course. Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
And the feedback, we actually had a meeting last night with the players. Those that could come and see us. So we had a bit of a meet and greet, and you met the rest of the community. So it was good. He had a few conversations with the players that were there this year. So you've got a fair idea. I know he's been studying our team. He's on top of that. That was one of his qualities that attracted us to him.
Those of you that are thinking you're hearing voices, that's one of the committee members, Rob Bennett, that's behind the camera. You're not hearing voices.
But you were saying MPL 1 compared to, or VPL 1 compared to VPL 2, they punish mistakes more. Is it a more attacking competition or a more defensive competition? So when you say punish mistakes, does that mean if you make a mistake, everyone's defensive, fucking 1-0 is enough? Or is it pretty open sort of?
Not so much. It's and there's a lot of transition football in VPL 1. So, you know, if you're on a turnover, you're sort of under the pump right away. So you have to be very, very organised and disciplined. I know a few teams that went in there this year, they struggled with that early and they had to adjust. So it's probably a little bit different to MPL, where obviously the quality of player is different in the MPL, and all the ball movement and everything is quicker, and because of the quality, I feel in VPL 1 you've got even less time on the ball. It's a bit more hustle and bustle, and you need to be really disciplined about how you go about it and how you move that ball if you want to break them down, because they'll definitely punish you. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And when the season starts, Feb, when do you sort of expect the fixture? When does the actual fixture come out so you've got some idea of when who you're playing, when we're playing?
I think this
Your guess is as good as ours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When you're juggling,
might have come late December or early Jan, I think,
Yeah,
this
around
year. Yeah.
So hopefully by
But,
after New Year sometime.
we might get coming to the new year and they might go, oh, we're pushing the start a month back. We don't know. Things like that can happen. all the
Change.
time, so.
They're a little bit,
These
kind of
under 20s came
erratic.
in pretty much last minute.
Football Victoria, unfortunately, with their structures and everything else, they're pretty erratic, and no doubt they're the same with the fixtures. But do you get an opportunity to sit down with the other clubs and say, we can have a chat about fixtures? And does FV allow for that, where you can sort of say, oh, we
You
wouldn't
can
mind
put it-
swapping this
You
fixture
can put in
over?
requests. So the request has been, obviously, we want to make the North Geelong games a big event, especially Dinamo and Danny aren't playing on those days, playing different days. Try and put it on a different day and make it a big day for the Croatian.
Yeah.
Not only at our ground, at their ground.
Yeah.
That's the plan. But you can put your requests in, but my understanding is just that we bank
They're sticking in some algorithm.
software program, and it just spits it out. So,
Well, everyone wants to play on a Friday night these days, which is a bit of a tough thing. Which I understand. It's a bit of a sort of bookmark into the week. You know, you finish off and have a few drinks, have a feed.
Dunstan Reserve. Who's at Dunstan Reserve?
Brunswick
City. So Tony Goodrich says Dunstan Reserve will be a tough match too.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
pretty much
Yeah, and they
it's a partner to the football ground.
they had a great season this year. You know, they were
Just missed.
one game off promotion. You know,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a hard ground to play that one. And that's I suppose.
Cow paddock.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. Is
yeah.
that the one down the bottom in the? Because I know Brunswick would play when they play the
It's just a
juniors.
reserve. It's
No,
an open
that's-
reserve.
Is
Is that where the juniors train?
that's Brunswick Yorville. So yeah, Brunswick City.
Oh,
played
Brunswick City. Oh,
Brunswick
God,
City,
were there a
yeah.
couple of NPL games this year? That's not NPL standard or
No,
VPL
no
standard.
way.
That's-
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, and
I
that's,
remember playing
I
there.
don't
when
mind
at
them as a
St.
club,
Joe's,
but that
North
is
East Road.
nowhere near it.
Yeah.
And the junior facilities are even worse.
and we spoke about with the board and about the challenges of this league. So
Yeah.
you know, it's completely different kettle of fish, right? Because different facilities, different grounds. You really have to hope that you get some fixtures away early, because by the second half of the year you're playing on some pretty poor
Yeah.
things. So the game changes and you have to adapt to that. And yeah, it's not like in the NPL for the most part. You know what you can expect. You get most NPL clubs have got their stuff together and the pitches are great and last most of the year. VPL 1 and 2 is a different kettle.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to adjust to and, adapt quickly.
Well, how's our pitch looking? It was looking a little bit better a week or two ago.
Yeah, so they're going to give it a rest now and start some work on it. So I think by the time round 1 comes, it'll be in very good nick. Yeah.
Any messages you've got out for the fans out there? Something you want to leave?
Yeah, no, just obviously honoured to be coaching this football club and get behind us, because we're really going to do our best to bring joy back to the supporters most of all. We know how much it means to the supporters, so if we can bring that little bit of joy, that's the main aim, and then see where that takes us. So hopefully everyone gets behind us, and we'll do our best for them, no doubt.
From your lips to God's ears, but I mean, it says a lot about you that you've left Brunswick Juve. It's in the same league. You could have continued that momentum, but you wanted this challenge. It says a lot about you actually as a human being and what your ambitions are. So I look forward to seeing your journey. At the moment, I've got a good feeling about you. I just don't want to, rub up too hard against you, because I reckon there's something hard you're hiding down there. Whatever I said, I didn't mean it. Take it easy on me, right? So, no, but absolute pleasure to have you in the studio here, Michael.
Appreciate you having me.
God bless you, and hopefully, everything goes well this season, and it's the first season back to glory.
Thanks, guys. I hope so. Appreciate you having me here.
No worries. And get behind the club. There's a lot of events that are coming up. We've got the Nights for a Cause. What's it? October 11 at the Dome. So still some tickets available for that one. Yep. So reach out. I think it's Sanja Franich might be looking after that. Jump on the socials. It's going to be a massive night as well. I think I've got a song lined up.
Yeah, you're self-hosted. Yes.
I am emceeing, but I think I've got a song in there somewhere in the bank. The one I did on Saturday night was fairly, I'll call it a bit average, but the kids loved it. So that was the main thing.
I thought it was good.
I was asked to sing it for the kids, and the chorus was pretty much everything was rubbish, but the chorus was
I thought it was good.
pretty good. Dave Lickleton, I wonder if they could fixture a couple of double headers with Knights playing a curtain raiser for Dinamo or vice versa. One at Knights, one at Dinamo.
Not a bad idea.
You know,
That was in the plans.
Yeah, no, that'd be.
That goes a long way to, making, mending.
Makes it a bit difficult for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Stayed in the league, that was in the plans.
it was always possible. Someone's asked also Sunday, bring back Sunday games. And someone, Jack 1953, give us, let's say, Melbourne City away round 1. What's their ground like? Where are they, Kevin Butt?
Melbourne.
The old Richmond.
Melbourne Serbia.
Oh, Melbourne. Yeah, old
But what's that
Richmond.
like? It used to be all right when
No,
old,
that's one.
Klaus was
That's
around
one you
when
need to
they
get
were
early.
We were talking about you want to play there.
You wanna play
because that's open to
Yeah,
public.
okay.
People walk dogs and shit on that probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really fenced off or anything like that.
I watched Georgie's and Serbia there only about a month ago, and it's not
Terrible,
good. Yeah, it's
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
All right, they've got a bit of money down there. I don't know what city that comes under, City of Stonington or whatever it is. I think they could throw some cash their way.
City of Bolima Briga. Yeah, but no. Anyway, look, it's hopefully it's going to be a great season. But at the end of the day, what's the big difference between NPL and VPL 1? As long as the crowds are there and it's competitive, and you can see that there's a fine line, isn't it? Really, and that competitiveness is something that I just hope to watch and watch these boys fighting, and that's the thousands of Knights fans out there will be hoping to watch as well. But yeah,
Exactly. You come back up and you never know. You can go one of two ways. You can go like Moreland City straight back down, or you can go like Preston or Dandy or some of these clubs and go into finals in your first season. It's a roll of the dice. All depends on the work that you put in and obviously the playing, coaching staff, board, everybody in the community behind it. When it's all pulling in the same direction, the only way is up. And I think there are some very, very positive signs coming out of Knights. If anyone was there last Sunday at the Junior Crow Cup, just the vibe, the atmosphere, the numbers, it was absolutely fantastic. I was not me, people from outside the club who haven't spent much time at Knights over the journey were pretty taken aback by everything that happened on that day. So it's great stuff. Great cooperation between clubs. Community came all together. Like we said, man, that's all we want to see. At the end of the day, that's all we want to see is everyone coming together, supporting our clubs, regardless of what part of Victoria, Melbourne they are from, or interstate. Mate, that's all we want. And
you want to come back in with a bit of momentum, a bit of strength, and not just being also get back in or just make it by the skin of your teeth, and then just being also ran again. That's something that I think most supporters, I can speak on behalf of them, we're probably sick of the mediocrity.
Yeah.
We want to see the club grow and, to be or not to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are at 2025.
So,
to be or not to be.
buy
Are we
your
a community
memberships.
club or are we a force?
memberships are available now for next purchase next year. Memberships are very important. So
Yep.
always to try and get as many memberships early as we can so that the club can have that financial base from which they can kick on from. So if you're not a member yet or you haven't renewed your membership, definitely get on board, buy your membership. I only bought mine not that long ago, but new season starts, buy a new one, and off we go. Get as much money as we can into the club, into the coffers, so that they can
bring a
get back.
friend. As I was saying, bring a friend to the game. You never know; they might love it.
Bring that.
We've got the best facilities in the league, that's for sure.
So we've got to bring that, like you said, that hostility, that fear factor when people come play their ground.
Exactly.
That's a great advantage.
Make it a fortress like it
It
once was.
was. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
What did Perth Glory call it? A dark hole in hell or something?
Oh.
In that 97.
Burns Stang said that he was in Iraq. I think when the Americans were bombing it or something, guys, and he's never felt more hostility than what he did at that one infamous game back in 2001 or whenever it was. So that was, and they remembered that. They remembered. I'll tell you another story. This is another story.
I'm sorry, I was just waiting.
Because of that game, the Knights had to play their game at a neutral venue, and that was at York Park in Launceston the following year.
That's right, yes.
There was a Perth Glory supporter who was caught at the gate with a tomahawk tucked into his pants because he was that scared. He reckons he was using it for self-defense. He was that scared because of what he'd seen on TV the year before of his crying coach and Bobby Despotovsky and whatever. So he came with a tomahawk. That's maybe not going to that extreme, but we want people. You want it psychological. You want it to go home. Like I tell my kids, man, when they play against you and you're wearing that jersey, I want them to, when they go, to tell all their mates, we played against Dinamo, we played against Knights, we played against North, and we lost 25-0. Yeah, and to never want to play soccer again. You know what I mean? Because again, for me, it wasn't all about the soccer. It was about the psychological impact you can leave on another human being, and that's what we want to do on their supporters, on their coaching staff, on their kids, on their players, So hopefully we can turn nights back into that sort of a place where people really don't want to go there, and when they do come, they get an absolute shellacking, and our crowd, we love that shit.
Add to that Perth Glory supporter, in the words of Tony Soprano, get the fuck out of here. Thanks again, Michael. Thanks for coming on. Wishing you all the very best.
Thanks so much.
You're an absolute gentleman as well.
No worries.
And can't wait to see you doing your things. As long as you're fighting, mate, we'll be behind you
Appreciate it.
every step of the way.
Thanks so much.
Welcome
guys.
to the club,
Thank
and
you.
you're already part of the community, so welcome to the club.
That's
Appreciate
right.
it.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
No worries.
All right. That is episode, I think it's episode.
Okay, it's early. It's not even.
Oh, Tuna says the black suits you, Mick. Very slimming. He's pretty slim. I don't think he's.
No, he looks all right. He's
That's
it's
right.
us we're worried about.
Maybe you need to shout him another trip to Vegas where he can eat it from the buffet over
I
there.
like how this is like high vis, and then there with the draw area, he goes black.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly right. That's where the abs start.
Yeah.
But I have started working. If anyone doesn't know, so after being made redundant back in May, I have started working, and I can safely say that me and Manuel Labour are still not on a first name basis.
Just got accustomed. Look, it's
Look at these
it's on
hands.
the first
man.
date.
Look at these hands. I've got a blister from a broom here. That's a broom blister there. The only blisters I used to get were watching SBS after and some of those VHS tapes. These are doctors' hands.
That's right.
You know, you have to go look at it.
I was like that. That was a story that I actually told everyone there at the Last Man Standing. When the teacher was there, she was writing something on the board, and she got a really sore, elbow, and she's going, "Oh, I've got teacher's elbow." And the kids go, "What are you talking about? Teacher's elbow? There's no such thing as teacher's elbow. It's tennis elbow." She goes, "No, it's teacher's elbow. There's a thing called teacher's elbow." And I said, "Miss, I don't know anything about teacher's elbow or tennis elbow, but I do suffer from wanker's cramp from time to time." And it was anyway. True story.
And you went to TAFE the following year.
That was at TAFE, actually. That was doing marketing at TAFE. And led me to here.
Tony Gilgich one for the road. Bring the fear back to opposition teams. That was one real big key with Knights, at least back in the heyday. That fear factor of coming there. One, the massive the talent on the pitch, and then off the pitch as well. So you turn up and you're looking at Danny Tiato, Andrew Marth, and all these, and then you turn the other way and you see what you see there as well. It's like in Braveheart when the English are coming, you go, the blokes, they're killed. Shit that they'll never forget. And that's what we're there to do.
That's right.
And hopefully we get out there again and do what we can at least to play our part. Mick and the team are going to do their best. The players on the pitch are going to do their best. The board is trying to the best of their ability to do what they can also to get the club back up to where it was, at least in recent times, and we'll go from there.
Mate, if we're all together, nothing can stop us. That's obvious. And they proved that as well at the Danny City Grand Final when there was 4,000 of us there. They were hoping, maybe they'd get 1,000 people supporting. Times that by 4. It was just amazing. It just shows us what we are as people. People blight us. We blight ourselves and say, no, we're like this, or never more this and that. Rubbish. Take that all away. We are unbelievable. When we get together, we can achieve massive things. We just have to get together. Stop the petty bullshit. It's not aimed at anyone particular, aimed at myself as well and everyone there out there. We all need to stop our petty little grudges and bullshit and do what's best for the community. I really do what's best for the community. That's it.
Exactly right. But one last one, Steve Cosgrove. So I think I did ask him before, but what's a preference for game day, Friday night or Sunday arvo? Going back to Sundays would be his preference. But is there any preference for still probably go on Fridays? At this stage, it's become fairly traditional.
We'll probably ask the members that, but I think in the summer months, I think still Fridays are the way to go just because of the heat.
Yeah. But
I think I've got a personal preference. I think we should go back to Sunday afternoon, especially middle of winter. But it all depends, there's pros and cons both ways. I think the biggest problem is your juniors. If they're not playing at home.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of your crowd on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But you also get your older population coming on Sundays. Friday nights, you don't get your older population. So
there you go.
And regardless of the dollars that you might not make from them because they're not going to be buying, 28 Coronas.
Yeah.
But just having them there and having the goodwill and that the people there means so much more than $1. We need to be searching for dollars in a different way as a community as well, not just from gate takings, selling Chavape and VBs.
So there's already a bit of debate now. Keep Fridays, juniors play on Sundays. Again, there's always that weighing up. But
Even the recruitment of players, a lot of players look for Fridays.
Yeah, that's
There you
right.
go.
Yeah, because they
Recruitment
have
players.
that's right. Because
Depending on when they
can.
can play, do they work
That's
Saturdays?
that's a great
things like
point.
that.
No, they want the weekend to go home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
But we've got Emil Lesher. I remember the York Park game well. I would have been 10 years old and travelled from Hobart. We'll never forget spotting the Melbourne Croatia supporters and making our way.
I'll tell you the story about you, mate. Walking to the airport with your black garbage bag before you close it. Remember that?
When we got kicked out of the $15 a night backpackers hostel with Steve Ivkovic and Lazy and Mickey and Fisto. I can't remember who was in that. That was just an absolute mess. That was one of the greatest away trips of all time. All right. Thank you, Joe Slatic. He's put through some very kind words as well. So as we need to keep our community together as one, as a Dom Spremni, well, our work is appreciated and thank you. And we did feel that as well, not only at the Junior Crow Cup, but at the Dinamo Zagreb recently, and people coming up to us, and we absolutely love it. We love what we do.
We do.
And we love that people are loving what we do. So that's what we're here for. And reach out. If you can reach out earlier, you got flyers and things like that during the week. Now that I am back to work, I might not have time to get them in last minute, but I managed it tonight. I still had a little bit of time up my sleeve, but keep sending your stuff through, your footage, whatever you've got. We will show it, we will advertise it, we'll promote it as best we possibly can. But, Spolge.
Good luck to everyone going to Tawny. Almost forgot that's happening. You're going to Tawny. I'm not. I'm here for a wedding, but I'll be with you in spirit. And everyone there on Saturday night, I reckon we might out-party you a lot on the Saturday night anyway.
By the looks of that wedding, I think it'll be a pretty massive party
Yeah, I
down
reckon
there.
too. But good luck to you all. Have a wonderful time. Pametu Glavo. That's what I tell the kids. Pametu Glavo. Have a good time. But, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time.
Sretan Port, and if there are still things available, whether it's, I'm not sure, at the Fish Night, and I think the beach party's sold out, and whatever else, Heritage Night, I think that might also be sold out. Just double check, jump on the socials, the Croatian Soccer Tournament social pages, and see if there is any availability for you to get out to one of those functions. Ladies' lunch, that's been the big talk of the town down here on Saturday night at the Zaba.
Some of those ladies still got to hang out.
They are, and I've been encouraging my wife to go to this one because she missed out on the last one. But that looks like a fantastic event just for the ladies, and they do let their hair down and have a good party. So get onto it. Good luck to everyone traveling, everyone
Well, hopefully
playing.
they have a good time so you can get onto it after, because it might be the only opportunity for the year.
And good luck to Gold Coast in hosting, and no doubt they'll put on a fantastic show as they always do. But Ljudi Moi, no show next Monday because I'll still be up at the tourney, but I'll try and get some footage, interviews, everything, and then the following Monday we will be back and we'll go from there, and then we'll try sort of
Bigger and stronger.
Bigger and stronger.
We'll be over
and then
100 kilos each for
then
sure.
we'll have the big one, the Cup Eve, the Cup Eve one. We'll see what we're going to do with that one, and we haven't really discussed too much about that, but it is a day off the next day, so we might be able to do something a little bit different than what we have now. And otherwise, thanks everyone for tuning in. Send through your feedback, send through your information, flyers, everything else. And thanks to our guests, Jozo Kolakušić and Dixie, as well as Mick Calandrella, the new head coach of Melbourne Knights, and to Rob Bennett for bringing in
for the rocket fuel,
the Cotties for us as well. So, Ljudi Moi, thank you, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
God bless. All good.
Kad zapjevam partija mi sudi, neka sudi pjeva